Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and sorry we kept you waiting. And I hope you were able to stay warm, because we're finally starting to feel like it's supposed to be out there instead of hot temperature, so very excited about that. Welcome to our last board meeting of this year for 2024, Tuesday, December 10th. Ms. Hernandez, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here.
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here. And can I just quickly say I'm going to be leaving the meeting partly for just a little bit of time because my kids have their concert tonight. I'm going to be attending as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Luna Rose?
I am here. All five of us are here. Thank you. Just an acknowledgement before we get started. I always like to do a little, I won't say trivia, but just a little note that today is Human Rights Day and also International Animal Rights Day. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And something that perhaps our current students may know about, but definitely those of us who are older, that is also National Dewey Decimal System Day. Right? Dewey Decimal System? Who remembers it? Yeah, a few of us do. Okay. Just wanted to point that out. This is the last board meeting before winter break. So I'm sure our students are counting down those days. Yes, I see some nodding heads over there. Yes, they are. So just wanted to acknowledge our holidays that are coming up: Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and of course the New Year. So I just wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays. Okay, with that, going to do our land acknowledgement statements. And I do believe we have our students here. Maya. Come on up, Maya. All right, before Maya reads the land acknowledgement statement, I'm going to read a little bit about her. Maya Gabby Romero. She is a fourth grader at Ochoa Elementary. Maya Gabby is very responsible and is the proud student council secretary. Maya is a true leader, and when she isn't at school, you will find her drawing and eating delicious pizza. Okay, so anytime you're ready, Maya.
On behalf of the governing board of Tucson Unified School District, I, Maya Gabby Romero, acknowledge that the school building and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the astronaut homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally realization tribal land of the Pascua Yaqui tribe.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so now we have Pledge of Allegiance. And are you doing the pledge as well? Okay. All right. So everybody, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Maya. Okay. I do believe we are to agenda adjustments. Dr. Trujillo?
President Luna Rose, members of the board, we have no recommended agenda adjustments this evening.
Okay, thank you. So now I will roll on into the superintendent's report.
Yes, President Luna Rose, governing board members, all of you in the TUSD viewing public, whether in person or viewing us here online. Before we go any further, we here celebrating the final governing board meeting of the semester and before the holiday break, we have a very, very special treat. for you this evening. I'm going to welcome in a moment one of the foremost choral groups here in the Tucson Unified School District. But first, take a little bit of an opportunity to just talk about how wonderful they are. We're going to enjoy a wonderful performance tonight from the Rincon University High School Choraleers under the direction of the amazing Mr. Chris Newsom, who will be sharing their musical talents with us this evening. The Choraleers will perform a selection of holiday classics, each one bringing a unique sound and spirit of this festive season. Their dedication and passion for music are evident in everything that they do. Tonight's performance will be a great example of their hard work and commitment. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to the RUHS Choraleers.
Hello. We'll perform 3 holiday carols for you all. First one is Ding Dong, Merrily on High, followed by Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, ending with Carol of the Bells.
Ding dong merrily on high, the Christmas bells are ringing. Ding dong, heaven doth reply, with angel voices singing. Gloria, sing glory to the highest. Gloria, sing glory to the highest. Fa la 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 la, fa la la fa la la fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la la fa la la la, fa la 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 la, fa la 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 la, fa la la la, fa la la la. Fa la la la, fa la la sweet silver bells all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing the cheer to young and old, big and little. Ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they call, raising the sound, o'er hill and dale, telling their tale. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding joyful ring, ding dong, ding. They send dawn, dear joyful tone to every home. Dark bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to sing, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing the cheer to young and old, big and little. Ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they come, raising the sound, o'er hill and dale, telling their tale. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, ding joyful ring, ding dong, ding. On they send on, their joyful tone to every home. On they send on without end, their joyful tones to every home. Ding dong, ding dong.
Thank you very much for having us out here tonight. We've really enjoyed just singing holiday carols, spreading some good cheer. We do have a choir and orchestra concert tomorrow night at Brigham University High School in the auditorium. 6:30, completely free. Come out, hear some wonderful tunes from our choraleers, our other choirs, and our amazing orchestra as well. So, thank you very much. Sure thing. My three rows? Come up here, wait. To your sorority squad.
Here we go. Thank you so That's great, yep. I did. Yeah, that's my Christmas present.
All right. Well, they walked out before I could say, but let's give another round of applause for the Rincon High School. That was amazing. Okay, so I do believe we're still through a superintendent's report.
Yeah, we're through recognitions, and I don't think it's any secret, especially to our educators and all of the wonderful employees that serve in our schools, that there is no shortage of organizations, volunteers, nonprofit groups, community agencies that come into our schools just out of the love and out of the passion and the hope that they have for our children. And what I want to commit to doing in 2025 is really doing a better job of highlighting those organizations, those agencies, and those volunteers through governing board meetings going forward, especially during some of our recognition time. So tonight, though there are many, I want to start with 5 that just year after year do a wonderful job sharing their talents, their passion, their commitment, and their resources and their services to the students of the Tucson Unified School District. We're so fortunate to have such a strong network of community partners who directly support our students and our schools. So we're going to start tonight recognizing 5 outstanding organizations whose efforts are grounded in prevention, mentorship, and programming that fosters academic, social, and emotional growth for our students. These partnerships are essential in helping TUSD students just make great choices, healthy choices, build resilience, build agency, build confidence, and keep them on track for college, career readiness, and life. Their contributions also play a critical role in shaping the success and well-being of the entire district by removing some formidable barriers for our students so that they can thrive and they can self-actualize as the young people and the leaders and the amazing students that they are. So I want to begin tonight by recognizing an organization that has just made such a profound impact on our students, the Ramon Murillo III Foundation. I'd like to recognize Ramon Murillo III Foundation for their incredible support of our students. Established in the loving memory of Ramon Murillo III, who tragically passed away in 2019, the foundation honors his love for golf and shoes by providing children in need with proper footwear for school and sports. This year, the foundation helped over 800 students from Johnson, Mission View, Booth-Fickett by giving them brand new shoes, ensuring that they have the confidence to succeed both in the classroom and on the field. In addition to the shoe donations, the foundation hosts an annual golf tournament in Ramon's memory, where TUSD family and community engagement staff have shared the impact of their work. We are deeply grateful to the Ramon Murillo III Foundation and for their commitment to our students. Here to receive the award are Ramon's parents, Ramon and Barbara Murillo, and his brother Christian Paul Murillo. I'd like to ask them to come up. We have an award for you. And stay tuned. Absolutely. Give them a round of applause. And at the conclusion of our recognitions, we'll have all of our wonderful partners come up for a group photo. Up, I'd like to recognize another wonderful partner who has made such a significant impact on our district and, more importantly, the families of our district. I want to thank the Cathy family for their outstanding support. Their generosity has had a significant impact on the students of the Tucson Unified School District, particularly through their support of the Family and Community Engagement Department. The Cathy family has graciously provided their newly renovated space for the Family and Community Engagement Department's quarterly family engagement meetings, ensuring a welcoming environment for staff and for families. They go above and beyond setting up, providing coffee and ensuring that technology is ready, all while running their own business. Their partnership with TUSD dates back several years, starting with a fundraising event that benefited our district, along with the backpack contest that provided much needed supplies for students. We are deeply grateful for their ongoing commitment to our schools and our families. I want to thank you, members of the Cathy family, for your unwavering support for the students of this district. Thank you again. Come on up. Let's give you an award here. I'd like to talk about the PIMA Prevention Partnership. This is an organization that has been helping our students stay on the positive path for a long time. The PIMA Prevention Partnership has worked closely with several of our schools, including Hollinger K-8, Sechrist Middle School, and Pister Middle School, to facilitate substance abuse prevention courses. Their efforts in these schools have been invaluable in providing students with the tools and the resources that they need to make healthy, informed decisions, and most importantly, to live drug and substance abuse free. We are also excited to announce that the PIMA Prevention Partnership will be launching a mentoring program at Tucson High starting in January. This expansion of their work is a testament to their commitment to supporting the broader needs of our students, both academically and emotionally. Thank you to the team of Pima Prevention Partnership for your continued dedication to our students' well-being and success. Here tonight to receive this recognition on behalf of the Pima Prevention Partnership is Lisa Deachea. Come on up.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And next up, one of our longest and most trusted partners, and certainly one of our most appreciated. Goodwill Industries has long been a champion for providing employment opportunities and internship opportunities for students with disabilities throughout the district. They've done so for so many years, but they do so much more in addition to that. So I want to talk about Goodwill Industries and all of the wonderful work they do. Goodwill Industries of Southern Arizona, they are so impactful with their work with the Tucson Unified School District. Through their Village program, Goodwill has also been a critical partner in supporting Tucson youth, specifically Tucson Unified District youth, by addressing the cycle of community violence. They provide trauma-informed intervention and case management to targeted youth throughout Pima County, helping them overcome challenges that might otherwise hinder their academic success. In addition to the work in violence interruption, Goodwill offers tutoring, career readiness, and a range of other programs designed to prepare our students for the future. Their efforts are a vital part of helping our youth develop the skills that they need to succeed in school and beyond. On behalf of the Tucson Unified School District, I want to thank Goodwill Industries for your support of all of our students and our families. And here tonight to receive the award on behalf of Goodwill is Lance Meeks. Finally, tonight, we want to recognize Portable Practical Education and Prevention, otherwise known as PPEP, for their continued collaboration with the Tucson Unified School District. PPEP plays a critical role in supporting our district through grant writing, which brings in valuable prevention programming for our schools. This programming often includes professional development opportunities for our teachers and staff, ensuring that our educators are equipped with the knowledge and the resources that they need to effectively support our students. Thanks to PPEP's efforts, our students benefit from valuable resources and training that directly contribute to the success and well-being of the district. We are grateful for PPEP's continued partnership and commitment to improving outcomes for our students. These organizations are shining examples of how community partnerships can enhance the educational experience for all of our students. All of the services and programs they provide come at no cost to the Tucson Unified School District, making their contributions even more meaningful. We look forward to continuing our work together to help every single Tucson Unified School District thrive and be as successful as they can possibly be. So here tonight to receive the recognition on behalf of PPEP is Amy Bass. So if I can ask all of our recipients to come on up, we'll have a group photo, and I'd like to invite our governing board members now.
There we go. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday. It's good to see you. It's very good seeing you as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dr. Trujillo, anything further?
At the closeout recognitions tonight, I think what these recognitions need to remind us of is I know that working in public education, either as an educator or as a board member, I think sometimes we get fixated on what's not possible because of budget cuts, because of politics, because of the legislature, because of school finance, because enrollment loss, capital funding challenges. But what tonight reminds us is that there are amazing people and organizations out in the community that roll up their sleeves, come into our schools, and stand next to us and help this district be successful. And most importantly, they stand next to our students, providing them with amazing resources, services, and opportunities. So I'm so thankful for every single one of these recipients tonight and looking forward to celebrating the many, many more that we have thriving throughout the district. And that ends recognitions for the evening.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we are on to call to the audience. So I will turn it over to Ms. Ekstrom.
Thank you. Public participation at board meetings. Members of the public may speak during call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to a criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. Our first speaker is Peter Norquist.
All right, members of the governing board, Superintendent Trujillo and Mr. Ross, good evening. Tonight I want to address 2 items on the agenda, 7.2 and 7.7. Beginning with the first, about window security film. I would like to reiterate some questions and concerns that I had during our last Bond Oversight Committee meeting. Regarding the security film under discussion, I'm still unclear what kind of bid process we underwent in order to secure the final vendor and whether we are going to make this $1.3 million investment before a holistic security assessment has been done. My overarching concern is about the big picture. I'm concerned that we're piecemealing security items together individually just to say that we've addressed the security issue without the benefit of a full assessment, which would allow us to create a comprehensive plan at the beginning, taking safety, security, and all hazards into account so that we know how all of the individual parts will fit together in an efficient way. This highlights a more general concern of mine that the committee is often too far downstream from the decision-making process, including bidding and procurement, to be able to make informed decisions and fulfill our duties to provide true oversight for the bond. We've been reassured that we're not there to act merely as a rubber stamp, but given the constraints on our access to the decision-making process at every stage except the final one, it's sometimes hard to believe this. And then item 7.7, which is about amending the age requirement for the Bond Oversight Committee. On this matter, to allow underage individuals as members, I wish to speak against this change. I believe that there are good reasons for restricting board membership to legal adults, just as there are for many other decision-making roles which carry adult responsibility. While it was stated that no other committees have this restriction, I would argue that this is probably because nobody ever considered the possibility of underage members when the charters were created, and perhaps they all should have this requirement. Please understand that this in no way reflects personally on Mr. Bro Sanders, the recommended members himself, who appears to be a very active and engaged student at the high school level. I would be happy to consider an option where a student could be added as a non-voting adjunct to the committee, a position in which they could still reap the benefits of observing meetings and be able to provide input from their perspective. I think that would be great. But I'm concerned not only about what seems to be, to me, self-evident practical considerations involved with this, but also about setting a precedent that the charter can be amended at a whim to allow anyone a seat who would normally be excluded from consideration. Following this logic, we might also dismiss the TUSD residency requirement, or allow anyone who has a conflict of interest as currently defined in our charter to sit on the committee, if so amended. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next is Pilar Acosta-Reese.
Good evening. My name is Pilar Acosta Ruiz, and I'm sorry that one of the board members isn't here, so I would have liked him to hear this. So first I wanted to share with you all well, I guess I'm going to skip that one, it's not here. Some of the core values of the definition of integrity. It is acting ethically and transparently in all business dealings, prioritizing doing the right thing over personal gain. It is not making personal comments about someone's call to the audience, which may intimidate other people to come and share their opinions and their free speech rights. It does not mean spreading falsehoods about election opponents or having your supporters slander election opponents or remove their campaign materials. It does not mean claiming credit for things you didn't do, such as bond approval. Integrity is not, what integrity is not keeping your word about labor issues. Other examples of things that are not integrity worthy are ignoring conflicts of interest of a colleague whose family potentially benefited from district funds, failing to call for an investigation in the name of transparency, and sticking your head in the sand when things were brought to this podium, public, timeline, facts were given to you. You cannot, integrity is about saying is about keeping your word and doing what you say. If you say you're about transparency, then you need to be transparent. And I'm really disappointed, and it's really shameful, I think, that the internal auditor has left TUSD. From an outside view, it looks like there was harassment, bullying, disrespect happening, and you guys lost a really good employee. Would suggest you treat people a little better. And thank you all for looking up, because one of my things about integrity was to respect the people that come and spend their time hanging out on a Tuesday night at a board meeting, sharing their opinions, whether you agree with them or not. You need to. One more thing. Integrity is not texting while you're sitting behind the dais and engaging in all your own personal activity. It's about TUSD business. It's about being present for the people that you serve. All taxpayers, all residents, all students, and families.
That is all for the public speakers. Next, I have 4 comments to be read. First is Gina Santos. She is going to be speaking about paid family leave for all. Dear Dr. Trujillo and esteemed members of the TUSD School Board, I am writing to advocate for the extension of paid family medical leave to all employees regardless of their hours worked. While the recent implementation of the paid leave benefits was a landmark step in prioritizing the well-being of our school community, I am deeply concerned about the exclusion of part-time employees, particularly those budgeted for 30 hours or less per week. This issue has a very personal and immediate impact on our campus. A colleague and friend, Leah, recently underwent a C-section and welcomed a new addition to her family. Just days before going into labor, she was informed that her position was a 30-hour per week teaching assistant, disqualified her from receiving paid family medical leave. When the paid leave benefit was first announced, there was a collective excitement and relief among staff, especially for Leah. Those of us who are parents understood how this benefit would allow her to physically heal, bond with her child, and transition into parenthood without the financial stress of unpaid leave. However, the current policy has left her and others in similar roles without the support they need and deserve. This situation does not align with the values of that our district prides itself on: inclusion, familia, growth, and wellness. Part-time employees like Leah are integral to the success of our schools. They should be afforded the same opportunities for recovery and family bonding as their full-time colleagues. I have faith that this board will take the necessary steps to address this inequity. I urge you to explore ways to extend the paid family medical leave to all employees, ensuring that the benefit fulfills its intended purpose to support every member of our community. Doing so will reaffirm our commitment to equity, compassion, and well-being of all of our staff and families. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I am confident together that we can find a solution that reflects the core values of our district. Sincerely, Gina Santos. Next is Audrey Keefe, and she is speaking about extension of paid family medical leave. Dear Dr. Trujillo and members of our TUSD School Board, I am writing to advocate for the extension of paid family medical leave to all employees, regardless of their hours worked. While the recent implementation of paid leave benefits was a landmark step in prioritizing the well-being of our school community, we are deeply concerned about the exclusion of part-time employees, particularly those budgeted for 30 hours or less per week. We learned that a TUSD employee recently underwent a C-section and welcomed a new addition to her family. Just days before going into labor, she was informed that her position as a 30-hour per week teaching assistant disqualified her from receiving paid family medical leave. When the paid leave benefits was first announced, there was a collective excitement and relief among staff. You need not be a parent to understand how this benefit would allow her to physically heal, bond with her child, and transition into parenthood without financial stress of unpaid leave. However, the current policy has left her and others in similar roles without the support they need and deserve. This situation does not align with the values our district prides itself on: inclusion, familia, growth, and wellness. Part-time employees are integral to the success of our schools. They should be afforded the same opportunities for recovery, family bonding as their full-time colleagues. I have faith that this board will take the necessary steps to address this inequity. I urge you to explore ways to extend paid family medical leave to all employees, ensuring that the benefit fulfills its intended purpose to support every member of our community. Doing so will reaffirm our commitment to equity, compassion, and the well-being of all of our staff and families. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and we look forward to seeing positive action being taken on this issue. Next is Guadalupe Henninger, and she is talking about items 7.4 and 8.1. Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Trujillo, legal counsel, board members, and everyone in TUSD. Thank you all for your hard work. My name is Guadalupe Henninger, and I would like to comment on items 7.4 and 8.1. Evaluation and awards of performance pay for our superintendent. We know after many years of deep cuts on education and massive tax cuts that violate our Arizona state constitution of a balanced budget and the lack of abiding by the Every Student Succeed Act, our Arizona State GOP-led legislation have been a roadblock to progress. So when evaluating our superintendent, we need to remember his work has been heroic in spite of the roadblock from the AZ GOP-led legislation. We need to call them and tell them to abide by the Arizona Constitution of a balanced budget and abide by Every Student Succeed Act and address the short-sighted standards for curriculum and fully fund our schools. For the item 8.1, we really need to focus on root causes. Our students are the victims of downturn economies. What I worry is in the Project 2025 created by the Heritage Foundation, it's going to be the same failed policies made in the past, like deregulations, massive tax cuts, and cuts in programs and institutions that are good for the people and their well-being. When you invest for things for the people, that creates more jobs, less crime, less poverty, and the well-being of our students go up. We need to call the U.S. GOP-led House to show moral courage and invest in the people and protect the institutions that keep our air and water clean, and protect the Financial Consumer Protection Agency that keeps our economy from crashing and our financial institutions from legally ripping people off. In the U.S., we are a nation ruled by law, not by men. Our law is of the land. The Constitution separated the government into 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial, to prevent one person or group from having too much power. It's a system of checks and balances, obstruction of justice, retaliation and colluding with foreign entities, and lack of due process is against the law. Vetting a constitutional requirement, Article 2 in Section 2 of the Constitution says that appointed officials should be done with the consent of the Senate. We also need an act of Congress to make changes on the budget. I'd like to add that we have a world order and international law with an international criminal court to address genocide and crimes against humanity. People's rights are human rights, and immigrants are humans too. Students and children's are the student and children. Thank you. We'll have the rest of the comments emailed to the board. Next is Nidia Ibarra, and she is discussing hostile work environment. Dear TUSD Governing Board, first I would like to sincerely thank you for taking the time to visit me and check on the situation at Tucson High School. Your visit is much appreciated. However, I must express my deep concern regarding the hostile work environment that has been created by Mr. Rothkopf over the past few months, and now Ms. Comstock. Since the start of the school year, Mr. Rothkopf has retaliated against me in ways that have only escalated the situation. What should be simple conversations are turned into major issues, and he has gossiped about me with multiple people on campus. He has written me up and, in a highly professional manner, invited all administrators to watch. This is not how matters should be handled in a professional environment. I have made formal complaints about Mr. Rothkopf to previous principal Ms. Rivera, our current interim principal Ms. Comstock, as well as to Mark Alvarez and Dr. Gabriel Trujillo. Despite these efforts, Mr. Rothkopf has continued to retaliate. He has made violent and harmful threats towards me, leaving me feeling unsafe, not only for my own well-being, but for the safety of those around me. Even more disturbing, after no consequences were taken following his actions, he targeted my son and harassed him. I no longer feel safe, and it is clear that nothing has been done to address this situation. A simple office move is not enough to resolve the damage that has been done or the ongoing threats. This situation has created a unsafe environment for me and my family, and I fear for the well-being of those around me as well. Ms. Comstock and TUSD have failed to recognize the aggressive behavior Mr. Rothkopf exhibits, and I am left asking, when will I be heard? When will my concerns be taken seriously? Will it only be addressed when something serious happens? This situation is absolutely unacceptable. Dr. Gabriel Trujillo, you have failed your staff. This ongoing issue has put staff members, students, and families at risk, and I urge you to take immediate action. Furthermore, Dr. Trujillo, you have failed by stating to give Ms. Comstock the opportunity. I have given her 10 too many. Is it because of your close friendship with Ms. Comstock, whom you appointed as principal? Your lack of interaction in addressing these serious concerns is deeply troubling. Additionally, I have been told by Ms. Comstock that the policies that have been created are specifically for me, a clear example of retaliation. She has also suggested that she would be willing to remove my discipline record if I agree to transfer to a different location within TUSD. This is another form of retaliation and further evidence of the unprofessional and harmful behavior I am experiencing. To make matters worse, Mr. Rothkopf and I will have Vanessa email the rest of the comments to board members. And that concludes the call to the audience.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. Okay, board members, any comment? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who came to speak tonight. I did go over to Tucson High last week to look into the situation, and I'm concerned with how it transpired. So I would like staff to look into the matter so we can rectify this more quickly. And I'll say my comments about the family leave for the item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you to those who spoke this evening and sent us your comments. All right, so now we are on to consent agenda. Dr. Trujillo.
Members, we would like for your consideration of consent agenda items 5.2 through 5.8 as arranged and proposed.
Okay. Board members? Comment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right. Moved by Ms. Shaw, second by Ms. Ekstrom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, we are on to 6.1, public hearing for fiscal year 25 expenditure budget revision number 2 for Tucson Unified School District.
Yes, President Luna Rose, governing board members, a major function of the board, of course, is the adoption of both the proposed and the adopted budget, but also 2 times a year, the governing board has the opportunity to revise the budget, once in the fall and once in the spring, formally at least, for the Arizona Department of Education. Both of those opportunities do present opportunities for the public to participate in a public hearing. So as this is the public hearing portion of the fall revision, I'll first turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Hernandez, for his presentation, and then, of course, it will open for public comment.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. As Dr. Trujillo mentioned, this is revision number 2, actually. If you recall, we did revision number 1 in August due to the late adoption of the legislature's budget, and we weren't unable to incorporate the limits at the time of the adoption process in July. So this is the December revision, essentially, where we just do some true-ups, as the board agenda item mentioned, and I bulleted those items out for you and the public. So we'll take a look at kind of the overview of some ADM, average daily membership changes, to give you a sense of how our numbers have changed from the 100th day in fiscal year 24 to the 40th day, which is kind of the first full measure of where our attendance ended up. On the 40th day, take a look at some variances, the totality of the operating budget, and just some quick next steps. So, as I mentioned, the requirement in this budget is that we need to start taking a look at where our ADM is going and start truing up our budget process or our budget limits in order to make sure that we're incorporating the right amount of dollars into our fiscal year 25 budget. So one of the things that I'm providing to you here is Right now, this you'll see in the column, the second column, that was the 100th day ADM for the various grades for the 23-24 school year. The third column over has the current projected ADM for the 100th day for the current school year. Now, the 100th day is the day that the school district will ultimately use to true up or reconcile our budget to those numbers in the month of May. You will notice the difference not only in the amount of ADM, but also what they mean in dollars. So how much essentially did we gain, or in some instances did we lose? So those line items that are highlighted essentially in green, all were grades that had growth in the student counts from the end of last school year to the projected 100th day of this school year. So third grade, sixth grade, eighth grade, and 10th grade all saw increases in students. All other grades, unfortunately, had decreases most significantly in the first grade, the fourth grade, the seventh grade, and the highest loss at this point is our freshmen. So in losing 532 ADM from the 100th day to our projected 100th day in January, that equates to just over $2.7 million in loss of budget capacity to the district. Now, as you recall, when we created the budget for fiscal year 25, we incorporated a 1% decline to the average daily membership. So we incorporated much of this decline already taking place. So this $2.7 million number is essentially already a sunk cost in our budget. We are essentially just truing up, which is really what the next slide will provide you. That $258,919 number is essentially the amount of money we still needed to reconcile to our now projected 100th day ADM, because we've already accounted for the over $2 million in maintenance and operations decline. Correspondingly, there are several declines there. Just to note, the desegregation, M&O is not a decline. It is a shift between M&O and capital. So you'll see that there's a decrease of $73,380 in deseg M&O, but there's a decrease of an increase of $73,380 in deseg capital, since the total between the two cannot be more than $63.7 million. And one of the biggest changes, obviously, is incorporating our budget balance carry forward. Since the annual financial report, which ultimately decides what our carry forward will be, was finalized in October, we now incorporate the actual number versus what our estimates were. So in our revision number one, we estimated $28 million. Ultimately, we had $32 million in M&O. On the capital outlay side, we estimated $5 million. Ultimately, we ended up just shy of $6.1 million in capital. I will say that for the capital dollars, most of those are projects that just did not complete in fiscal year 24, have moved into 25, and those corresponding dollars that were unspent have moved into fiscal year 25, and we are carrying those on. So in most of those instances for capital especially, they're not new dollars, they're just dollars that continue to move with the projects that are multi-year. The $4 million budget balance carry forward is an additional increase to the to our budget capacity, which will be put into our contingency fund. Our contingency right now is just over $18 million in M&O, so that amount of money will before this $4 million, our balance is $18 million. So once that $4 million is incorporated, it'll be $22 million. That's where those dollars will end up. There will not be any decreases to anybody's budget, any department or any school as we move through the year. So that is kind of an overview of just the various limits that have changed. Like I said, I described these in more detail in the board agenda item. All told, this is the district's operating budget under revision number 2. It is a slight increase of just over $1.4 million. So our total operating budget across all funds in the district is about $714.9 million. That is an increase from revision number 1. The most significant change downward was in the other funds, and this has to do with the fact that there was an overestimate in the amount of money that we have currently budgeted for building renewal funds. even though we're expecting a significant amount of funding from building renewal, we adopted a budget of 15 million-ish, and now we're at about $10 million. That doesn't mean that more dollars couldn't come. But as building renewal projects get approved, we will continue to add budget capacity. But at this point, these are the projects that have been approved by the School Facilities Board that come through the building renewal grant. Otherwise, everything else is essentially a movement up or down depending on the allocations that we've been provided. So next steps, after public comment and your questions, we will submit this revision to the Department of Ed. We will readjust again our calculations and our forecast once the 100th day for the current fiscal year actually comes to pass. That'll be January 17th, 2025. And the final time that we will be able to revise our budget up or down will be May 13th of 2025, when we can incorporate either any additional changes in capacity as well as incorporating the changes in the average daily membership for the current fiscal year. And that is the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. So now we will go into the public hearing. Members of the public may speak during the FY25 annual expenditure budget revision number 2 public hearing portion of the agenda. The board president shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining proper order by setting such limitations as may be appropriate. Speakers should restrict their remarks to topics related to the FY25 annual expenditure budget revision number 2. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum of 3 minutes. Individuals speaking before the board shall observe rules of propriety and good conduct and refrain from impertinent or slanderous remarks. And we only have one speaker this evening, and that is Pilar Acosta Ruiz.
I'm Pilar Acosta Ruiz, and I've said this from the podium before. I just looked on the website again. You know, I pay attention to what happens here, and I didn't even know there was a public hearing until I looked at the agenda. It's not. So my question is, why did you not do a PSA, put it on the front page of the website, do something to let the public know this was happening? It's really sad that nobody shows up for public hearings, but if they don't know there's a public hearing, then they probably aren't going to show up. So I have a question, which is, why are you guys not publicizing the public hearings? You know, I'm here to speak to the obvious. The stakeholders don't know what's happening. And I'd like to know what the board is going to do about letting the public know that these happen so that people can come and tell you what they think. And it looks like we lost more students. So I think that was one of the goals for the superintendent, to keep that flat. But yeah, so maybe you guys can answer the question about why does the public not know and why are they not here? Thank you.
All right. Seeing that barring there's no other speakers, we are done with the public hearing. And so now we're going on to 7.1, FY25 expenditure budget revision number 2. So I do believe if we have any questions for Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thanks, Mr. Hernandez, for your presentation. In regards to the comment by Ms. Ruiz, I'm looking at our website now, and yeah, there's nothing about this public hearing. And I think this is something that the public, as well as myself, had asked staff to improve over the years. Like literally every public hearing, we have almost no people. And so, I think there is a lot of truth to what Ms. Ruiz said. We certainly have to do a better job at letting the public know. Under upcoming events, it says we have a governing board meeting today, but it doesn't specify that there's a public hearing for this matter. And so do we publicize this in the paper, or what are the efforts that we do?
Yeah, so the requirements under the statute are, we're not required to publish it in the paper. We can. Obviously, it will come at an expense that we publish it in the newspaper if that's the governing board's wish. But we do publish the public hearing notice on our website. It is, admittedly, it is not on our homepage. But it is on our finance website. That is generally where it's been located. Similarly to, the postings for performance impact analyses have been on the DSEG homepage. They've never actually been on the home site. That's certainly something that the finance department is willing to do, and we can work with the communications department to get those posted. I don't know what their cadence is or the requirements are to get those on the website, like the district website, but the public hearing is posted on the finance webpage. I will say that.
Okay. I don't know where the finance webpage is. I don't see it in any of the drop-down menus, but well, it's shameful for you, not for me. I mean,
I'll come and show you. No,
show me.
So just for kind of like a quick lesson, there's a financial information link at the bottom of our homepage. If people click on that financial information box, there's several boxes across the bottom of our website. That will direct you right to our finance website. In our budget and budget reports, you will see every ACFR, every annual comprehensive financial report for the last 4 years, our budgets that you've approved, our public hearing notices are posted on there. But so it's there, but it's, like I said, admittedly, it is not on the district's homepage under upcoming events. And that is certainly something that we can change for future revisions.
Yeah, if we could get someone to really make these public hearings accessible, that would be great, because scrolling down, still can't find the finance department. I know we're trying to make our website cleaner, but there's a lot of stuff here that just doesn't seem like it's relevant. So I guess that's for a future meeting, but yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Ekstrom?
So Ms. Shaw, it's like right under services, learn more, and then there's meet Dr. Trujillo, financial info. Is that it?
That's it.
I mean, it took a while for me to find it too, but I think because we have asked for this so many times and it hasn't been done, I just don't know what more we need to do to have it put on the face or on the front page of the website. It just has to get done. I mean, we've asked for it time and time again. So I would encourage that for any public hearing for that to be posted on the upcoming events.
And if we could, to echo my colleagues, if we could, I don't know, because I don't run these programs, maybe a quick phone call or, the automated.
Oh, parent link.
Parent link, thank you. I was
Parent
just on it today and I can't remember the name. Something out in parent link. And once would suffice. And if we could even have it, again, depending on what kind of resources we have, also bilingual would be.
Yeah,
helpful.
we'll work with the finance department. We'll work with the communications department to determine where it could best fit on the website. In terms of parent link, I know that communications has a cadence for how often they send those out because, they have a specific metric for when they do those. But we can certainly make sure that whatever information on public hearings that they can incorporate in whatever announcements they send out to our families, that can also be part of it as well. That won't be difficult.
Okay. Well, thank you, and would like to see this next time the next public hearing, please. I do have a question concerning the actual budget.
Okay.
So, is it my understanding this is not unique to TUSD, right? Like other school districts go through these type of revisions?
The December revision is probably the most common revision among school districts, whether you're revising up or down. One of the biggest reasons is the annual financial report gets approved in the month of October. Once the Department of Education verifies those numbers, everybody creates an estimate of how much you think you will be carrying forward. Some of us tend to be a bit more conservative than others. And once that number is finalized, when the AFR is approved, we make sure that that number is now incorporated into our revised budget. That's one of the biggest reasons. But the next biggest reason is also having to do with ADM, right? So we make an estimate on ADM. For example, I made an estimate that I presented to you that determined we were probably going to have a 1% decrease in ADM. We incorporated that 1% in the adoption. We were pretty much on target. We still had to make a little bit of a change between the 100th to the 40th day and our projected 100th. So that is also another reason, is that if your ADM is obviously fluctuating, especially to a significant portion. The only other thing, as I mentioned in the board agenda item, is the Department of Education will notify us when we are absolutely required to do it. And we did receive that notification because we exceeded the 1% limits that they set. And I can go into more detail if that's information the board would like to receive. But ultimately, if the Department of Education notifies us in the month of November, hey, you've exceeded the limits we've calculated for you, you must perform a December revision. We will perform a December revision. But most school districts, the December revision tends to be probably the most common one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hernandez? Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Oh, and then just the motion.
Oh yeah, we do have a motion. It is an action item. My apologies. All right, so I will move the item.
Second.
All right. Move by myself, second by Ms. Ekstrom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much, and thank you. All right, we are on 7.2, approval to procure goods and services for quarter 3 and quarter 4 bond project priorities. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, I'd like to welcome Dr. Charlotte Carter, our bond program manager, to present the latest wave of projects that has gained support and approval from the Bond Oversight Committee in terms of a recommendation to all of you. So very, very excited to hear about these slate of projects. Dr. Carter.
Yes. Good evening to the governing board president and board members. It is our pleasure and honor to seek approval to procure goods and services for quarter 3 and quarter 4 for these bond priorities. And so that quarters would be January 2nd, 2025 through June 30, 2025. And if we could put up the proposed list for the projects, and I think you guys have that as well. So as you know, we have 5 major categories in the bond book. I will be presenting or asking for you to approve 3 of those various categories. So we have HVAC kitchen retrofits for evaporative cooling and air conditioning for $1.4 million. We have the schools, Blendman, Davis, Robbins, and Robeson. We also have domestic water line and sewer replacement for Catalina, Tucson High, and Sabino. Under the health, security, and safety, we have the security window film, and it's for all elementaries, Brickta Preschool and Shoemaker Preschool, and also health office upgrades at Choya, Palo Verde, Pueblo, and Sahara of $260,000. Then we have improvements to classrooms and learning spaces. We are asking for approval for Camp Cooper, the cabin upgrades, and contingency fire hydrants, $3.3 million, and replace portables with permanent structures, Davis, Rincon, University High, and Tucson. So these various projects come up to about $15 million, then with adding the contingency about $18 million. And last month you approved about $8 million. So this will be about $26 million. And then I have a few more projects. So as we investigate and determine the various projects. It goes through the BLC, and then I bring them to you. So it is, my ask is a motion to grant the authority to the purchasing director and in conjunction with the bond program manager, myself, to procure goods and services using approved TUSD and cooperative contracts for the third and fourth wave of bond projects, not to exceed plus the 20% contingency, where single purchases may exceed $250,000, or for a cumulative purchase with cooperative contract vendors in excess of $250,000. Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, questions? Well, I guess I can have a question.
Sure.
So concerning the security window film, how were the schools chosen?
I'll let the subject matter expert
Yes.
tell you that.
Good evening, President Luna Rose and rest of the board members, Dr. Trujillo and Council Ross. Yes, we did site assessments on all of our schools. When it comes specifically to the window film, the elementary schools were identified because those are our most vulnerable students. And, it's part of this whole layered approach. We're trying to buy time for individuals to get there. When we looked at historical events, we look at, where the threats are most likely to come from. And in reality is from elementary schools, the threat is most likely to come from the outside.
Okay. And how long are we thinking that this is going to take with the security film? Like from beginning to end, going through all our two preschools and the elementaries?
So the vendor's going to be bringing in a team. It should just take a couple months to do that. They will be working in off hours to ensure that it doesn't interrupt the schools.
Okay, so we're hoping before the beginning of next school year? Is that our?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Romero.
So in regards to this screen, a window film. So is it just also bulletproof, or just like someone takes a bat to it and just the glass doesn't fly everywhere?
So what this does is it prevents entry, right? As we've seen, unfortunately, in some of the other situations that have occurred historically, very tragic events, we see individuals making access through the glass. This is what prevents that. There is other items out there, but this is nothing like I've ever seen before. This is just makes it very rigid. However, this particular product does not stop bullets. In order to do that, you would have to have significant thickness of glass that's just not, necessary or not realistic on schools.
Because I was also kind of just doing some studying on, where some of these school shooters happen, and somehow they infiltrate already in, find where there's security breaches, where they can get on in, where they can hide, whether it be in the stairwell or somewhere where there maybe not be a camera. I understand, the glass thing, give more time if they try to break on in. I think that's more with like a retail location where the middle of the night, no one's there. They try to break on in and they keep hitting in doors and trying to break in. And then there's time for the police to get there when the alarm goes off. I understand that. I just don't see this ask of 1.3 million is going to help or over $1 million for the glass on there. That's going to create more of a safety thing on there. Some of the other research I was doing, I was talking about, secure classroom doors is one of the best ways to stop active shooters. And this was something that was written November 2023. Talks about that, and I know we talked about that with one of our audits. I was also looking at some other things that is in the industry. And there's this a product called OmniAlert, which is the most effective gun detection solution for active shooter threats, where if they see anything that looks like a gun through any of these cameras, like a sight or anything like that, it automatically alerts, sends an alert for human verification, whether it be the OmniAlert system or our own like school security. Are we looking at other things than just this type of screen? And then the other thing would be is, usually as board we get procurement, we see different people that have bid on this. I didn't see anything like that, so I didn't know what our procurement process was on the screen also.
I'll let
Phil.
Mr. Hernandez talk about the procurement. I'm sorry, go ahead,
Dr.
Dr. Trujillo.
These are all great questions. So I want to kind of recenter. It's not just about preventing a school shooter, okay? We suffer hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in good old-fashioned vandalism, whether it's the smashing of the windows at Holiday that we saw last year or busting out the windows at Utterback. We see these incidents happen again and again and again and again. I think we're going to get the larger benefit of this security film, which I had an opportunity to take a bat to in a demo. I literally couldn't shatter it. I almost threw my elbow out, which again does exactly what you said. It provides valuable time for law enforcement, or in our world, school safety, to get to the place where the alarm is going off. I think you also get to intruders, and it does provide a pretty formidable deterrent to be able to get into a school. It doesn't have to happen more than once. I mean, we saw what happened at Sam Hughes. We've seen what's happened at individual schools when individuals get onto the campus. Thankfully, we haven't had anybody penetrating a window. We don't want to be seeing that happen even once. So I think that there is a realistic need for a stronger security film on our windows, but not so much for the school shooters, but more so for the vandalism that happens every single year that really presents a tough situation. Most of the vandalism happens on like a Sunday. Kids are showing up and there's broken glass everywhere on a Monday morning, and then we have to get out there and do all the boarding up. So to me, it also presents a practical solution on that front as well. Mr. Halams?
Yeah, absolutely. And furthermore, it's going to restrict anybody from gaining access. What we've seen when it comes to vandalism historically is people get into schools, and that's where the real vandalism occurs, right? Utilizing fire extinguishers or hoses or lighting fires inside. This will help kind of prevent that. We're making significant investments across the district, and this is all part of the strategic approach from trying to prevent people from getting inside. Then we utilize cameras, hopefully AI systems like the one you're referring to, where we'll be looking into those with that consultant that we're going to be bringing on. They're the experts in that, and that's why we're bringing them on. And then lastly, unfortunately, we have seen incidents where people have been able to breach a weakness in our armor, right? We're making these investments in this fencing, but we are still going to have some vulnerabilities, right? Because we still need to have access to our schools. This is what's going to help secure that.
So to answer your question, Mr. Romero, on the procurement, this is a cooperative purchasing contract. So we didn't go out through a formal procurement process. This is part of a SAVE contract. So SAVE is a cooperative purchasing agency that we belong to. The actual procurement process was conducted by the Pinal County Educational Service Agency, which is the county school superintendent. They did the full evaluation. The purchasing department, they evaluate to make sure the completeness and the pricing match. So the pricing and the quotes that we've received from the vendor are those that are identical to the ones in SAVE, the contract. So that was the formal procurement process. We didn't actually go out and issue our own RFP to procure this specific product.
Another question, Dr. Chu, you kind of mentioned the glass breakage through a lot of the schools, and I know visiting a lot of schools, I had heard during the summertime a lot of glass was, classrooms were targeted. Do we know how much money we spend replacement glass annually for our schools?
I think off the top of my head, no. We'll have to get you those numbers. It's significant. It's expensive.
Now, this film that goes on there, does it keep it for the glass from breaking if someone were to take a bat to it? Because I didn't get to throw a bat at it like Dr. Chio, so I'm learning.
Yeah, I did get the opportunity to take a bat, and it's pretty substantial. You will see some fracturing at the specific location, but that's just it. I mean, you'll see some very minor. It's not going to break through. You're not going to be able to gain access. And other school districts that have employed this have seen that, it kind of takes the thrill away of it because they're not getting the reaction that they're hoping for from the excitement of breaking windows.
Right. Okay. I've come in it from that angle. It does make sense because I have seen a lot of broken glass at a lot of these schools. and then the time to replace them. So thank you very much.
So, Mr. Romero, just to let you know, we have a contract with a glass company. That contract does not exceed $90,000 generally annually. So we spend no more than $90,000 on just a regular year on glass breakage, whether it be through vandalism or a kid at recess kicked the ball through it. You approved last month an actual expansion of that contract because we are buying some glass to reinforce some of the glass that needs to be reinforced in order to add the film to meet up to the specifications. So that was approved by the board last month, but generally no more than $90,000 is what we spend in a year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. So another question about the film. So does the film go on like the door windows that you see, like, you know, in the classroom? There'll be a door and they'll have like a tiny little window. Is it going to be on those windows as well?
No. So this is going to be exterior doors.
Exterior.
Exterior
Okay.
doors and windows.
Even if like some classrooms like at Sam Hughes have like an exterior door, and I can't remember if those ones have windows, but in that case, would it go on those like little classroom?
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into detail about the
Okay.
strategy of where we're actually going to be applying that. And I hope you can understand that.
Of course.
But yeah, the intent is, again, prevention from people gaining inside, reduction in criminal damage, so on and so forth.
Okay, so external facing windows. And so is that preliminary estimate in the agenda item for $1 million? Does that account for all school sites, or is that just the 2 elementary schools?
It's all elementary schools plus those 2 pre-Ks. So plus Brickta and Shoemaker.
Okay.
Mr. Romero.
Are there plans on doing it for high schools and junior highs, or that's not the priority right now? Or
Yeah, I wouldn't. I never want to say any school's not a priority, but it would be the political answer, right? But no, again, you know, the intent that I had behind this and this approach was that our most vulnerable kids, and again, when we're looking at historical events, the most tragic events, again, the threats are coming from outside. We will be continue to explore how we can apply this and get the same, apply the same strategy towards the other schools as well. But again, this is just the accessible areas. So, and when you're looking at high schools and middle schools, so it becomes a little more challenging.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Ms. Shaw.
Just want to point out that we're going to be retrofitting some of the kitchens across our district, so that's a huge win. So thank you for putting that on here.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, barring any other questions, I would like to move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by myself, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Carter, and I love the reindeer ears. Very cute.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. All right, we are on to 7.3, School Council Authority to hold public meetings for D schools. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, members of the governing board, every year we do have the charge of asking our schools that are in school improvement to make presentations about their school improvement plans to the board, but the board always has an opportunity to delegate that authority. Here to talk about your options is our Director for Federal Programs. And John Lanza also oversees the financial end and the compliance end. He's our liaison with ADE on all of our school improvement efforts, does an absolutely wonderful job. So I'll turn it over to him at this point. Mr. Lanza?
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Good evening, President Luna Rose, Board Clerk Ekstrom, Governing Board members, Superintendent Trujillo, and Council Ross. We're here tonight to go over the requirements for Arizona Revised Statute 15-241. This is the notification of D and F letter grades to the public. Just for context, this is for 4 schools. Okay, we've gone from 9 schools last year down to 4, which is a great thing. We do not have any F schools. We do have 4 D schools. So Maldonado Elementary, Pister Middle School, Robeson Elementary, and Valencia Middle School. So what you see on the screen there are the requirements. There are 3 parts for this state statute. The first part is notification. So within 30 days after receiving notification from the state, we're required to provide written notification to each resident in the attendance area. And I'll show you a little bit later here what the steps are that we've taken to do that. The second part of that is the improvement plan. So within 90 days after receiving that notification, we are required to develop an improvement plan for that school. Now, most schools, as you see, well, all of our schools actually have improvement plans already. We add an addendum to that, kind of go deeper and look at what occurred in that past 6 to 8 months since the test occurred and update those plans. And the third component is the public meeting. This is the component that I would need a board action on tonight. The way the statute reads is 30 days after submitting the improvement plan, the governing board is required to hold a public meeting at each school and presents the improvement plan that's been put together. That, just taking it the way it's written, would require you to hold 4 additional governing board meetings within that time frame at the schools. And I'll show you the option that has been provided by Arizona Department of Education to make this a little more feasible for you. So the first piece, a little more information on where we're at. The actual notification. This was in 30 days. This has already occurred for us in Tucson. So by December 1st, this letter that you see there, just an example, has been put on the website of those schools. This is the public notification. This makes the public aware of that D rating. And this is also then followed up by a newspaper article that we do just to ensure that it gets out to the larger public. Okay, and the first part of that letter being on the website has occurred. That notification has met the requirements within this 30 days. The second component is the improvement plan. So the D schools are required to complete this by January 30th. 3 out of the 4 have already completed this. We're close to having the 4th done. And the way this occurs is there's an update that occurs to their current improvement plan. Schools update their integrated action plan, which is with the state. And then we also take new information that our assessment evaluation department has put together on what actually led to the letter grade. So they have what are referred to as letter grade meetings, where they go over with the leadership team from the school all the pieces that led to their letter grade that they received. And that principal then works with their leadership team to come up with additional steps that will occur this school year. Those plans are submitted to the Arizona Department of Education, and that meets the requirement for the Pima County and the Arizona Department of Education notification for the improvement plans. The last piece that you see here needs to be completed by March 1st. This is the public meeting. So we have a little more time with this, but basically once the improvement plan is put in place, the way it is written is that the governing board would have meetings at the school to go over this improvement plan. The second step there is what we are asking for you to consider tonight, that principals share the improvement plan at their site council meetings. You can see the components that we have them share: current year data, letter grade plan, action steps that are occurring in their current action plan at the school. This is a change that the governing board is being asked to consider tonight. So in summary, the key modification that I just discussed is allowing the principals to share their improvement plans with their community at their school during a site council meeting, instead of you holding 4 individual governing board meetings in that time frame. We have run this plan by the Arizona Department of Education. They have approved this plan. And then we've talked with legal counsel, and TUSD was also another step they asked us to make sure we were all on the same page and meeting requirements within our boundaries within TUSD, that this all made sense for us. So I'm requesting tonight that the governing board approve this plan to allow principals to share their improvement plans with their site councils to meet this notification requirement.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lanza. Board members, questions? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for the presentation. When and if school sites hold these meetings with their site council, do they also have to do the same sort of notification to all of the residents within their boundaries, or is it kind of just up to them?
So the notification to residents in the boundary is the letter being put on their website. That's where the digital notification is, where basically all our information goes out. So that's how that takes place to their attendance areas, to the students that attend the school.
I see. Okay, and do we offer support to them as far as like doing robocalls or like extra ways to communicate with their people?
So we have not done robocalls to this point. It's just been the letter put on the webpage and then the public notification in the newspaper.
Okay, well, I wonder if we can get our communications department to assist to getting the word out if we do approve this tonight.
We can definitely take a step and work with communications department.
Mr. Romero?
So when do they normally hold these improvement plans with their school site council?
So during the month of January and February. So that's kind of that 90-day window in there where they get that done. They need to be completed by March 1st is the date we have to have those completed.
Okay, and then another quick question as far as these schools and their site council, how many people are on their site councils? Do we know?
I don't have an exact number. I know they do have requirements for the makeup, parents, also certified staff from the school. So it definitely has community representation there.
Is anybody in the public able to go to these also?
They do. So they have an agenda that has this as a topic, and then they have sign-in sheets. And then those are, and Councilor Ross, you can check me. You want to go ahead and answer that there?
Yeah, thank you. I thought you were gonna be acting.
I was going to go for it. I'll turn it over right there.
They're public meetings, so they need to be noticed, just as your meetings are and are open to the public.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And then I guess one other thing would be, can I be put on that list so I would know when all those school involvement plans are being held to see if I can attend any of them or a couple of them?
I will get those dates to the Governing Board Secretary, and we can share those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I had a question. So we did the same, I guess it's more Dr. Trujillo. We did the same with previous years, right? Where we left it to the site councils?
Yeah, and the board's rationale, at least the last couple of years publicly, has been that this is more the jurisdiction of the local site council. It's a little bit more immediately relevant for the administration to present directly to the school community. Not that the board experience isn't meaningful, but the notion that there's a little bit more immediate accountability for the educators to present directly to parents and the site council community.
Okay, which I still agree with. Because one, it's such a short amount of time to try to schedule on all of our schedules, but also, I mean, it really is school by school, especially now that we only have 4.
Correct.
And I'd hate to really, they already know what they need to do, so I don't want to add any extra scrutiny that we don't need to, because they understand. I'm assuming after they have to do these public meetings, is there a report that you send back to ADE that this has been completed?
Correct. So in their improvement plans, we put the pieces that they're covering with their site council. So it kind of mirrors what they've talked about with their site council.
Okay, thank you. All right, board members, any other questions? Ms. Shaw?
The improvement plan, is that like, do they create the improvement plan and then like, for instance, Dr. Trujillo looks over it and sends it back for revisions, but what is like the, like once they create it, who gets to look at it and provide feedback before we submit it to AD grants management or the superintendent of public schools?
Sure. So those improvement plans, they exist for all of our schools at this point. So all of our Title I schools, which this year is 85 of our 88 schools, they all have a plan in place right now. That plan for these 4 schools will be updated with more detail. And really, the plans are created for the next school year. They're started in March, April. So they are a bit of like forward planning of steps they need to take. And we review those each semester with the principals. So the principals talk to the pieces that are in place. There's progress monitoring is what we call it. And they do updates during the school year. This is an added update for these 4 schools. So they go through our regular review process. They meet with Dr. Freitas' team to look at the data with these letter grades that led to the D and come up with a more detailed plan that we then add. So I review those. I just reviewed one today. We have them updated on their plan that the state then sees. At the county level and the state level, they get to see it. So they essentially have gone through a couple steps up to it getting posted with the state.
Thank you.
Dr. Trujillo.
Every year in the summer, usually it's late summer, and then we do it again in mid-fall. Mr. Lanza and Assistant Superintendent Dr. Hewitt and I will actually meet and review personally all the school improvement plans for those schools that are in a state of school improvement. This year, they're known as Project Momentum schools, which are schools that, yes, are 4D schools, but then also schools that have Cs, and those Cs might be a little bit low. We then meet with the regional assistant superintendents. Number one, we make sure they're fully staffed. Sometimes that leads us back here, and we have to have that tough conversation about outside contractors because we can't find the teachers. We'll address any gaps that we see in their school improvement strategies, whether that's funding or it's personnel, or we think that the strategy may not be a viable one. We also have a series of walkthroughs just to make sure that hold them accountable for doing what they say they're going to do, especially in the areas of teacher collaboration and that professional learning community work.
Okay. Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Luna. Great, thank you, President Luna Rose, and thank you for the presentation. Yeah, we've done this each year, and one thing I love, Superintendent Trujillo, is in your bi-weekly updates, can you send these improvement plans when they're finalized? Yes. Yep, all right.
Okay.
And I'll move the item.
All right, and I will second. So moved by Dr. Shaw, second by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Lanza.
Great. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, we are on to 7.4. Evaluation of Superintendent Goals 22-23 in consideration of award of performance pay. So I believe that's Mr. Ross.
Yes, thank you, Board President Luna Rose, governing board members. So this is the first of two items for evaluating superintendent's goals. This is the 22-23 version. And Maria, can you put up the spreadsheet that set for 22-23? It should be a PDF. So the process that the board has done and did this year as well is the goals were put into this spreadsheet. The board members individually scored themselves, and then it just becomes math. So the contract, first of all, statute requires some portion of a superintendent's contract to be performance pay. The superintendent's current contract has up to $5,000 for each year, and then the board adopts the goals, which the board did, and then each individual board member here scored it, created an average, and then an associated amount of performance pay for each of the goals. So if you'll scroll down, please, to the bottom of that one. So I think one more page. So for 22-23, the total amount of performance pay based on the board's evaluation is $2,091.87, if my eyes are true to me here. So this is 22-23. So the proposed action would be to adopt this evaluation and award the performance pay as indicated on the spreadsheet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ross. Board members, questions? Dr. Shaw?
I just want to thank Dr. Trujillo for his 7 years of service to our district now. It helps to have someone who knows the district as well as you do. And while there's a lot of challenges and in a district, we do appreciate everything you're doing for the district. I think I've told you many times, I don't envy your job, and I think you have one of the toughest jobs in our region. I'll move the item.
All right. I will second the item. May I get a roll call vote, Ms. Hernandez?
Ms. Shaw.
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Dr. Ravi.
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose.
Yes. Item passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Now we're on to the next part. Superintendent Goals 23-24, Mr. Ross.
Thank you. You want me to repeat everything I just said? Okay. So the bottom line on this one, after doing the math with all of the governing board members' individual scores, would be a performance pay award for 23-24 of $1,913.54.
All right. Dr. Shaw?
I'll move the item.
All right, I will second. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hernandez.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. Okay, item passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Dr. Trujillo, for your service. All right, we are on to 7.6, approval of the TUSD academic calendar year for school year 25-26.
Yes, President Luna Rose, members of the governing board. Our calendar committee is seeking to tackle the district calendar for the next 3 years in 2 steps. First step, obviously, is tonight, the immediacy of 25-26. And then they would like to be back later on in the spring to tackle the subsequent school years of 26-27 and 27-28. Here to go over the committee's recommendations, we have our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Flory Hewitt, and of course, our Senior Director for Curriculum Development, Heidi Aranda. They did an absolutely fantastic job. They did a wonderful job with the committee, and the committee has all kinds of preferences, and I had all kinds of asks. I was asking in a lot of ways the impossible. I wanted more time for operations, a later start to the school year so they can do a lot of that summer work, but ran up against standardized testing dates and district holidays and instructional minutes. So very, very tough, but it all came together with some recommendations. At this point, Dr. Hewitt, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, governing board members, President Luna Rose, legal counsel, and Dr. Trujillo. This evening, we are excited to bring to you our proposed 25-26 school year for your approval. As a point of note, we will continue to work with the calendar committee through next semester to bring you 3 calendar years, as Dr. Trujillo mentioned earlier. The calendar committee consisted of teachers. We had our finance department, HR, some principals, facilities, transportation, and a governing board member as well. It's not moving to the next slide, please. Okay. All right, on the next slide, you're going to see our purpose. So our purpose is to, again, request your approval for 25-26 school year, which will align with our state instructional time requirements, as well as the district's educational goals and needs. Tonight, we want to ensure that the proposed calendar aligns with not only the district's educational priorities, but also maximize our instructional days in alignment with state statute, as well as plan for our commitment to job-embedded professional development, and also accommodate to the required testing schedules. Some of the considerations that our committee had were the start and end dates. As Dr. Trujillo mentioned, there are a lot of demands in our school district, so our committee took into consideration our start and end dates. We also took into consideration our breaks and, of course, our professional learning days. Now, with some of the analysis and the work that we conducted in the committee, I'm going to invite Ms. Heidi Aranda to go through the next few slides.
Good evening, governing board members. So one of the challenges that we encountered really is that our calendars, of course, as you know, are based on a Gregorian calendar cycle. So about every 6 years, we run into this issue where we would need to start school in July, which presents many challenges to our schools, the custodians, getting school ready, facilities, doing projects at schools. And so that was really our task. Dr. Trujillo asked, as he said he had some requests, for us not to start school in July. And so that was that was our challenge, and we know we'll have this situation every 6 years. Here's some historical information, just if you ever were curious about TUSD calendars. Here's about 15 years worth of TUSD calendar data. We did start in July in the 14-15 school year. But you'll also notice the different total number of instructional days as well as instructional days per quarter. These are all of the things that the committee tries to balance. So we presented 3 options. All 3 of these options starting in August, but also finishing before Memorial Day, presented different challenges. Those challenges were sometimes instructional days being cut short. As you can see, 174 days would really cut 2 instructional days from students, but also would cause some funding issues with things like credit recovery, CTE, and JTED that the state doesn't fund. So all 3 of these options sort of had different issues. Some of them had enough instructional days, but then didn't have that shorted our employees' contract time. And so the committee came up with this final recommendation, and what it includes is to accommodate for shortening contract days, we added 2 contract days to the beginning of all the employees' contracts so that they can be trained and get the necessary information to start the school year. So bus drivers would be able to practice routes more and get the necessary training that they need. We moved 2 of the professional learning days to before school starts, which I think parents will appreciate because it's 2 less days they need to find childcare. And that leaves 2 professional learning days, 1 in each semester of the school year. We did not affect any of the breaks, which I know anytime you touch a break, that causes a little bit of tension. And we were able to keep our instructional days the same. So this is our new calendar. Teachers would come back 5 days before students. That normally would be 3 days before students. But like I said, we added those 2 days, so they'll do 2 professional learning days and then report to their sites. We still were able to keep fall break and spring break intact, have even semesters as far as days. Each one is 88 days to equal 176 days. So that is our calendar proposal that we are seeking approval for tonight. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. Board members, questions? Ms. Hewitt or Dr. Hewitt or Ms. Aranda? I appreciate your work in this because I know, it's literally juggling a schedule, right? Just as a personal note, like looking at this calendar and seeing when the last day of school is for May 2026, because my dad will be graduating, so it makes me sad a little bit, but good to know. But I think just an aside question, would teachers be more apt to have those 2 professional days before starting school? Is that something that has been discussed previously?
Yeah, and we've had some discussions about that. We are going to seek teacher input as to what would be the best, start, because we know that teachers have a lot to do in their classroom at the beginning of the school year. But usually, for example, this year when we rolled out new curriculum for ELA for 612 and science for 612, we did have teachers attend PD during those first 3 days back. So any kind of demands and PD and so forth will be taken care of, and we don't have to tap into those first 3 contract days, which I think teachers will appreciate, being able to fully be in their classrooms getting ready.
Okay, thank you. Okay, barring any other questions, I will move the item.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, ladies. Have a good evening. All right, we are moving right along. 7.7, consideration of removing Bond Oversight Committee member age requirement from the BOC charter. And I guess that's me. All right, let me get. So, it was brought to my attention that with the Bond Oversight Committee, the charter states that the members must be 18 years of age, but that we do not have that requirement for other of our committees. And I do know when I first started on the board, I was on the Technology Committee, which is now defunct. But during that time, there was an opportunity for a student, and I think there was a student that served before I started serving on this board. So it has happened before in other committees. And I just want to make this uniform, because if there's a student that wants to serve on a governing board committee, when they can be doing a bunch of fun other things, because sometimes this is not always fun, but necessary. I think it's important to hear their voice, because they're the ones that are in their schools every day. They're the ones that can report back to the committee that they want to serve on. And I feel really strongly about having student voices. Now, that being said, I would like to see something for all the committees that we have, at least starting, and I know the questions have been brought up, what if an elementary school student or middle school student? I was thinking more of a high school student. They've gone through our schools, and by the time they get to high school, have made some, I think, formulated decisions and understanding of what's going on in their school and hopefully their community. And again, I'm just and perhaps I'm speaking because I have a high school junior. I want to hear their voices. I want to ask their questions, because we're long removed from where they are. So with that, I would like to open it up for discussion. Dr. Shaw, do you have
Well, I'll just say it's great to have student voices on our committees. Having served on a lot of the committees with as a member as a board liaison. And so I'll move to strike CB1 in terms of the age requirement. And then when CB2 becomes CB1, include specifically TUSD students as TUSD affiliated individuals.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Shaw, second by Ms. Ekstrom. Mr. Romero.
Yeah, so, someone at the call of the audience made a mention of that. We understand student voices should be heard, but the Bond Oversight Committee, especially when we originally talked about it, when we were talking about getting the bond, it's our duty to be responsible for the taxpayers. Having student involved with the organization would be great, but as a non-voting entity in that, we can still get their voices on this one. But if we're spending almost $500 million in all these funds with the Bond Oversight Committee, and we've handed this over to, someone who's still considered a minor under 18, that doesn't look good as a board that we're giving this much away to a student in the school. The student, I know these are 2-year terms, up to 3 years. If a student wants to get involved in some of these things, they can do that. But usually after they leave here and go move to college, they're out. They're only here for a small period of time. So I think they should be able to do it. If they wanted to continue, then they can wait till they're 18 to do that. And including it to other committees, I don't think we should have a voting person on the audit committee that has no experience in audit either. We should have 18 and over in our audit charter as well. Again, that just shows a responsibility to our community that we're being responsible. We're having adults make these adult decisions, And we can have the kids' voices, the students' voices in these, but I don't believe they should be playing a significant role in how these votes are going to happen.
Okay. Dr. Shaw.
I'll say that, and again, I think these committees are very, very important to us to help us govern the district appropriately. But all of our committees, including the Bond Oversight Committee, has no specific power or authority. They can only make recommendations to us as a governing board. And if we have a voting member on this committee, the committee makes no decisions. They only make recommendations to us to make decisions. And I think a lot of taxpayers would agree that when we're spending $480 million of taxpayer money, that we should make sure that the students' needs are met.
Well, if they have their voice heard there, they really don't have a voice in the vote, then why should it matter if they can vote or not? Why should we change this, just because we have a charter that's already been set, brand new charter, now we just say, oh, we got a student that comes on in, let's go ahead and just change the whole charter to put in an individual, as opposed to, creating a precedent of we can just change our charter anytime we feel like we want to add a person that doesn't fit in there, say they don't live in the district. Well, this person doesn't live in the district, but they're good qualified, or I know them, we want to put them in there, then we just modify our charter again. We have these charters as guidelines and rules. If we just keep breaking our rules to allow people in when anytime we want to, that looks bad at us as a board. Like I said, we have other people that were at that meeting that were qualified. There's two from what I understand. And one was of age, according to the charter. And I don't understand why we can't maybe have both. We have the person that wanted to be in there, possibly serve 6 years, and then a student that can be a voice in there, but not a voting member of the committee.
Ms. Ekstrom.
So I am actually the board liaison to the Bond Oversight Committee, and there was much discussion from that committee. And ultimately, all of these points were discussed, but they decided that they felt that a student and their voice should be heard and that they should have a voting, that they should be able to vote. And quite frankly, I am sort of tired of people in the audience and people up here who underestimate our students, that for some reason, because they're under 18, that they're not able to vote or to study on items and be able to have their voice being heard. So for me, I think it's important that we do include students, and that, they're high school students. They are a part of this district. This is their district. We really need to refrain from saying that, kids under 18 shouldn't have a voice.
Mr. Ross, so if we approve this tonight, and I know Dr. Shaw had already made the motion to change it, but is there something else to be able, either tonight or in another meeting, to add wording like high school students only? I'm sorry, I'm not thinking this through correctly. Putting in, amending his motion to add high school students, because I don't believe I heard that coming.
Correct. That was not part of my motion.
Yeah, that was not part of his motion.
So you can make an amendment.
Okay.
Is that
Thank
what you
you,
want to
Mr. Ross.
Sorry.
You could do that, yes.
Okay.
Either now or at a later date.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Ekstrom.
So I'd like to make an amendment to include in the eligibility that it be high school students only.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Shaw.
I don't think I'll support that amendment. I think, we have the decision as a governing board and the committees will bring people that are qualified, and I think to hold our hands tied on that, I assume the committees will bring qualified people to us, and as we vet them here, we'll make sure we have qualified people on our committees. And we might have an 8th grader who has a lot of lived experiences and would be a great, fit for a committee that we might want to get on. And so I think we are competent enough as a governing board and our committees to bring the qualified people regardless of age, and I wouldn't limit it.
Okay. Well, I disagree, just because and I will second Ms. Ekstrom's amendment, if that's allowed. Simply for the fact that I feel that, not that I want to exclude 8th graders or 7th graders, but just that I feel like at a high school level, they're a bit more in tune to what is happening with their district. So we have an amendment to an amendment. So do I take a vote, correct? It's my last meeting as president, so let me laugh.
If there's no further board discussion on that point, then you vote on the amendment.
Okay. So, Ms. Shaw?
I was just going to say, I mean, I agree with Dr. Shaw about like the age stipulation. We don't want to be ageist here. You know, there's totally capable students of all grade levels, but I mean, for this committee specifically and also the audit committee, I think it does require a little bit of maturity and like financial background and other things. So yeah, I mean that amendment was only for this charter, right? We're not like doing a blanket.
Correct.
So yeah, I guess I'll support that for this specific committee, but other committees, I think, especially the Alternative Education Advisory Committee, I think that could really benefit from students of different ages.
Okay. So I'd like to roll call vote on this amendment to include, make it high school age students only for the Bond Oversight Committee.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Abstain.
Dr. Ravi?
No.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. Okay. That amendment passes 4-1 with Mr. Romero abstaining. So we still have another.
No.
Did you abstain?
He voted yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Ravi said no.
Ravi said no.
Yes.
Okay. So 4-1. Thank you. All right. So now we have we still have the original amendment on the floor, correct?
So we have the
yours?
motion as amended,
Amendment?
and we can vote on the motion as amended.
Okay. You should give classes. Okay.
I love nerdy things like this, so.
I know. You do. Okay, so to Dr. Shaw's original motion, any further discussion? Okay, can I get a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
No.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. Okay. Item passes 4-1. Thank you so much for the discussion, board members. Okay, so now we are on to 7.8, approval of revisions to the audit committee charter. And I do believe Mr. Romero.
All right, I know Derek has been sitting for a long time. Want to come on up? So just want to introduce you real quick. This is Derek. She is our audit committee chair. She's taken over for Kevin Oberg. And I know once I became the board liaison for the audit committee, we had to revive the committee from 2 people that were active and not having any meetings to having a very vibrant group in the audit committee, having monthly meetings, following an agenda and getting done on time. And I think our first meeting ended up going on like till 7 o'clock at night. Was that Ross? On a Friday night. So we changed that around quite a bit. But in doing that, the leadership in the audit committee wanted to kind of strengthen our charge here and and define us a little bit more with our charter, and put a little bit stronger emphasis on being more active and being an integral part to help the governing board when it comes to this audit information. So other than, I know Rob had some comments that were done on some of these issues on that. Danica, did you want to mention anything else on this?
No, but I do want to just give kudos to our vice chair, Ms. Binyard, who took the lead on a lot of these modifications to the charter and using a lot of her experience as an auditor currently. So I do appreciate that, especially because we both had started at the same time earlier this year.
Yeah, she jumped right into the fire on this one. And I know in talks, they've been talking to Rob Ross on a lot of these for the legality of these things too. So I know Rob's played a huge part in creating this new charter.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure I did as much work as the committee members did. I just reviewed what they did at the end.
Well, thank you for your help.
So any questions?
Board members, any questions for Mr. Romero? Dr. Shaw.
And thank you, Derek. I haven't had a chance to meet you before, so I really appreciate all of your service. I spent 2.5 years on audit committee before being elected to a governing board member in 2020, so I know all the work that goes into being in the audit committee, so thank you for your service. My question, I think, is what was the reason for a new charter? Because we have a charter that was approved a few years ago. I don't think that the charter that was approved a few years ago was actually met out. Like I don't, from what I can see, I'm not sure if it was actually followed by the audit committee in its original form. And I'm seeing some things, and I can go into it in a little bit after I have other governing board members comment, that I don't think is really appropriate for the audit committee to really do. So I am really hesitant on approving a new charter. I think we should stick with the original charter and make sure that charter is actually being, what's the word I'm looking for, actually being met out and being done in terms of the work of the audit committee.
Well, it's not completely.
I'm sorry, can you move your microphone up? Yeah. Thank you.
It's not completely like a brand new charter. It's been modified. So a lot of the main bullet points are just kind of more in a paragraph format. Some of the modifications that were made was just to kind of clean up the language. With the term limits, there was some questions on, starting on 5 years and then renewing to another 4 years, and then we just kind of removed the odd year language in there. Also, there was an addition of adding a line to allow us to have a subcommittee, which we kind of found would have been beneficial, especially in this case where we had one member really just taking the lead and collaborating with legal to like update everything in the charter. But I wouldn't call it entirely brand new.
Okay. Dr. Shaw, my questions to you is what is, I know you want to keep it as is, but what is is that the main objection? Is there some wording in there that you object to?
There's some wording in here. I mean, I think what I need as a governing board member from an audit committee is to work with the external auditor and make sure everything is done well with the external auditor that we have, and then work with an internal auditor to help support that person in their work plan for the year and with the reports and the reporting process. There's some things in here that I'm a little uncomfortable with. So for example, in the mission, I think it was added the culture of ethical behavior. The audit committee will take a leading role in a culture of ethical behavior. I think that's beyond the scope of what I want to delegate to a committee. I think that's our role as a governing board. I think the committee should really focus on supporting the external auditor and supporting the internal auditor and coming back to us with that information so that we can do our job as a governing board. Other things like the code of conduct, I think is beyond the scope of the audit committee. I don't know why that was added in here, monitoring compliance with the code of conduct. I really think that the original charter as it stands supports what I, as a governing board member, need from the audit committee, which is a committee that is working with the external auditor, that's working with the internal auditor, and helping support us in making sure that the fiduciary responsibility of the district is being met out.
Thank you. I do that's my one concern, is about the code of conduct, because I don't believe that should be under the purview of the audit committee. That is under the purview of the board. So I do take a little bit of umbrage with that. Any other comments, suggestions, questions? Ms. Ekstrom?
No, I agree, but I'm finding it hard to agree with a lot of these changes. I mean, certainly, taking out the appointed terms, like, I agree with that, but with the, implementation of trying to have oversight on the student code of conduct, I don't agree. And I don't believe it's the audit committee's responsibility to practice or try to have oversight over ethical behavior. I do believe that is the governing board's duty. So I do agree with Dr. Shaw on that. I don't know how we want to do this, or if we want to fix it or have them come back. I don't know what you'd like to do, Dr. Shaw. Just stick with the original charter?
Ms. Shaw, you had your hand.
Thank you. There's certainly a lot in this charter, more so than I think any other committee, and I think that's because of the nature of our internal audits can be all-encompassing. I mean, think back at all the audits that we received. Surely, student relations could be one of them, and was. And so, monitoring things that really impact our student body, I think is completely necessary. And they should have, I want to keep that statement, sound business practices and a culture of ethical behavior in their mission. Because we need to increase the ethical behavior in our district, whether it's, something dealing with criminal behavior or something, as small as hiring your friend. I think monitoring that, those are all things that are within our internal audits if our internal auditor has found that to be true. But yeah, it's a very wordy document. I know that there were things in the charter that I was expecting to see, but I guess it's been taken out as far as audit committee members can't be removed for cause. I wanted to keep that. Was that removed?
No, it's still in there.
Oh, I don't see it redlined.
Mr. Ross?
It says with or without cause.
With or
there was a
without
version
cause.
that said only for cause, but that apparently is not what the committee approved.
Okay. Maybe I'm not seeing
It's on
that
page 2, third main paragraph.
one. Page 2. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Romero?
So just want to let everybody know, I played no part in this whatsoever. It was all the bond or the audit committee. We have a lot of smart, intelligent people within that group, and I don't remember how many years total we have of experience within that group. But again, they wanted something a little more stronger charge. They want to give all their experience as much as possible. And I think that's why they went into so much detail, as Ms. Shaw had kind of mentioned. And if there is something that, is questionable, we can take it back to our audit committee for our next meeting. Let them know some of the board members' concerns, and then see how we can address those. They're really willing to work these things out with you, but our biggest thing is, I don't know how long we've been working on this, Mr. Ross, but I think it's been 6 or more months trying to work on getting a better bond or a charter. And in all those efforts, there's been a lot of work and man hours put into that, but ultimately they're doing it because they want to be a better asset to the board. So if there are things we want to take back to them, please let us know for the rest of the board members so that we can adjust this and then get back with legal and then bring it back.
Mr. Romo, I appreciate that. Because like I said, I still have an issue with the code of conduct, and as Dr. Shaw alluded to, and all our committees report to us, so we have the final authority. So I would like to see this come back somehow, and I don't know, maybe that's an email, maybe that's a discussion, maybe board members come to the next audit committee meeting, those who are interested in moving this along without, making it a 3 or more or something like that. Is that permissible?
It's a public meeting, so.
Okay, thank you. Just to, I think, get this right, if we are, I just want to make sure that each committee, and since we're talking about the audit committee, understands their role within their charter. So I still just feel the code of conduct is something is, I think, beyond the scope. But Derek, I just want to say thank you for jumping on. I know this is a big task, and you're standing here going, "Oh my God!" So I appreciate.
Yes, it's terrifying.
You're doing a good job. Yeah, she's doing a good job. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. I'm not sure what everyone's reservations are. Like the changes are so minor that, like, I know you guys have so much on your plate to mince about, like, an addition of they do not supervise any employees and, like, 1 5-year appointment, and, like, what's the other one? Changing the verbiage about meeting with the independent auditor. I think I'm ready to approve this tonight, and, maybe at another meeting they can, like, review it again. But I think this is so, I don't know, trivial of what the additions are or changes. And could you please speak to some of the reservations about the code of conduct language? Do you think that is under your committee's purview?
Well, the committee is advisory, so anything that we might, this just kind of broadens our scope to everything within the district. I know it's, there's more of a focus on fiscal responsibility, but then this kind of broadens also to district policies,
right.
Which I do believe are under the audit committee's scope,
right.
And what the internal auditor audits for the district.
Ms. Lona Rose?
Yes.
I think there's a confusion here. So the edits in this document aren't the red lines. There's a whole other document. It's a complete rewrite of the current audit committee charter. So there's another document in board docs that's the current committee charter, and this one is not like those edits aren't red lines from a change. So the change is very significant. Yeah, so that might be a confusion. I had that at first when I was looking at it. I'm like, well, there's wasn't a lot of changes, but then it looks a lot different. So that's one confusion we're having here. And I will add that the original charter that was amended or done in 2022 does have code of conduct, so I'd actually accept that would be removed. And and kind of go back to the drawing board. I'm not sure if the charter needs to be revised. Like, I really love the audit committee to focus in on what the job is in terms of work. Having met with the external auditor, how often, this might be a question to the board liaison. So when I'm on a board liaison to a committee, like, I'm very actively engaged with agenda setting and working with the chair if I think there's agenda issues and making sure that they're focused on the issues that they should be focused on. I'm not sure if the audit committee was meeting with the internal auditor on a regular basis and reviewing the work plans and what they were doing. And I'd rather than just work on that as opposed to edit a rewrite an entire charter.
Ms. Shaw.
Thanks, Dr. Shaw, for clarifying that. I don't know why, typically when we have policy revisions, the red line copy as it's outlined is redlined and all of that. So it's kind of unfortunate that I have to compare two documents side by side. Yeah, that being said, I would like to look at it closer in comparison with the current charter. And if we can moving forward, any revisions, I think the red line copy should be true to the current copy and just edit that copy with red text, please.
Mr. Ross.
Yeah, and I didn't do this one for them, but some of the red lines were mine on this one.
Right.
But there was, like Dr. Shaw says, it's a complete, not just formatting, but there's a lot of language changes, and I can make sure that happens the next time because they did work after they came to me.
Okay, thank you. So from what I'm hearing from the board, Mr. Romero, do you think you can come back with, so all of us can have an opportunity to look by side, seeing that there seems to have been some confusion on that?
Sure.
Just to make sure we get this a true version of what we're going to be voting on.
Right, and just, I don't know, Mr. Ross, maybe you can help me on this one. Would it benefit the board to meet with some other members in like a think tank type of thing to see what we're going on? I don't know if that's even an option, or have, three or more come to an audit committee meeting. I know that's difficult, again, because it's also in the day with us at work, but I was just throwing out the think tank thing. If they want to understand a little bit more, get more information, why the people in the audit committee are looking for this. Or do that at a board meeting.
Mr. Romero, you've been at the meetings as well as I have, and there is a sentiment on the audit committee that they would like to meet. Well, you can probably attest to this too. The audit committee would like to meet with the board. And that could be maybe that's something that could be scheduled as a work session or a retreat with the audit committee and the board to discuss this further, and that would probably that seems like something that could be helpful in addressing kind of a bit of a disconnect that I'm hearing. They have requested that, or at least had discussions about it. They haven't. I don't know if they've made a formal request, but you've heard them have that discussion in the committee meetings.
Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, President Luna Rose, governing board members. The only comment we would add as administration, because this is a governing board appointed committee, this is your purview. But I think when you get into auditing non-financial areas and you're now getting into academic and you're getting into pedagogical and you're getting into, as our chair said, yes, the audit committee says, or their charter spans all district policies, but now let's look at code of conduct. Okay, does our audit committee, who are largely certified public accountants and auditors in the financial realm, do they understand restorative practices? Do they understand PBIS? Do they understand escalations? Do they understand behavioral interventions? Do they understand the inner workings of DAPE? It actually sounds more like an alternative ed purview. And so because audits are public record, and they are, the audit committee and the internal auditor, they're your branch, right, for internal controls and internal accountability. I think the administration, we just want to make sure, like, when those audits are being carried out in non-financial areas, they're done by outside content experts. So if there's going to be an audit on language acquisition, we would like to see language acquisition experts. Sure, they could report to the audit committee, but I just would hesitate to say that the audit committee has sort of just this open rein on any district policy to audit it for its effectiveness, where we would have to take into account content expertise or at least content knowledge in some of these areas. With code of conduct, it's not as simple as just level 1 infraction, student commits an infraction, did he get a level 1 consequence? You have to understand all these concepts that gave birth to the code of conduct when we were under court supervision. So I would just say whatever version of this comes back, and maybe a group discussion might be the best, way to kind of talk about this. I think that would definitely be warranted.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I think Mr. Romero will come back at a later date. Okay, thank you. Angelica, thank you. I hope it wasn't that scary. You're fine. You're fine. And I love the sweater. I love the skulls. Very cute.
Oh, I thought they were upside down ornaments.
Okay, item 7.9, approval of the recommendation to appoint a new board member to serve on the Tucson Unified School District Bond Oversight Committee. Ms. Ekstrom.
Thank you. Our bond oversight committee chair is on Zoom.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Ms. Carter? Mrs. Carter? There she is. Mrs. Carter, can you hear us?
There's like a chat.
Oh, is there a chat? Erica. Oh, I'm supposed to be able to listen and see the meeting for. Oh, I don't know. Well, you should be able to, Mrs. Carter, you should be able to see. Well, it looks like your camera's on, but it's off.
Ms. Luna Rose, I see audio coming up, so I'm not sure if our volume is off.
I think that's us. I think that's our mic picking up on the Zoom.
Okay.
Let's see. Hold on, give us just a second, Mrs. Carter.
She's off. Oh, no, she's back on now.
Is she muted?
No, it doesn't look like she's muted.
Erica, can you hear us? Okay, try. Erica?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Hello?
You're. Hold on one second. You're on the laptop. Give us just a sec.
Yes, we can hear you, but just still figuring that out, Erica.
Am I on now?
It
Hold on
might
one
be
second.
that the USB audio, right?
Yeah.
Code C.
No, they can just hear it on the laptop.
You gotta love Zoom, even after 3 years. Oh my God. 4 years.
4 now, 5 years.
What? Stop! Stop it. You're making me feel old. I know I did think about that as 4 years and how I thinking about my the age I am and the age I started. Yikes. I was having that conversation with Lily.
She hears, but we can't hear her. It's the Zoom setting.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Sorry about that.
Should she log off and come back in?
let's see. Yeah, but that's, yeah. You know what, we're gonna put the microphone over where we can actually hear her.
Okay.
And it's that real tech.
Yeah, it's.
Erica?
I'm here. Can you all hear me now?
Well, we're putting the microphone by the laptop, so that should work. Sorry about that.
Hold on a second. Now I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Because you're not speaking anyway.
Erica, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good to go, right?
Yes. So Ms. Ekstrom, is she going to speak?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
good to speak on
I
this.
can go.
Okay, yes, go ahead, please.
All right, let's do this. Okay, good evening, President Luna Rose, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and Council Ross. We are seeking the approval of the BOC's recommendation to appoint Mr. Owen Brill Sanders as a new member to serve on the TUSD Bond Oversight Committee. Our main concern when discussing his application was the age restriction on our charter, which as of tonight is no longer an issue given that you all have approved the removal of the age requirement. As I've mentioned to President Luna Rose, the committee would like to keep it limited to high school juniors and seniors, which was also addressed earlier tonight. In addition, there are a few other requirements that the committee would like to include for student application to be considered. For example, decent grades, good attendance record, community involvement. We have not yet compiled an official list of the criteria. The committee elected to wait until after we knew if our recommendation for Mr. Bill Sanders would be approved. If our recommendation is approved tonight, we will have it on our agenda for discussion at our next meeting scheduled for January 16th, 2025. Prior to that, I will ask for council's help with the revision of the BOC Charter Section C, line 1B, to include the requirement. Once the BOC agrees to the revision of the criteria for student applicants, we will bring it to you for approval. Just a little FYI, we were not getting ahead of ourselves, but simply wanted to ensure there would be no conflict with Mr. Bill Sanders was approved. So I have already confirmed that he does in fact meet the requirements I mentioned, even though they're not official yet. We've also cleared it with both his teachers and UHS school administration. Unless there's a change in the future, student applicants will be missing some classes due to our current meeting time. Therefore, we want to make sure that student members are in good standing academically and their participation in the BOC will not have a negative effect on their learning. Committee members are happy to have the voice of a student and agree it is important to have a student representative. And we hope that there will always be a student representative in the BOC for the life of the committee. At the time of our meeting, none of the BOC members present, including Mr. Norquist, did not voice any concerns about revising the age requirement, other than making sure that we did keep it to only high school students. Just a little side note, I wanted to make a comment in regard to Mr. Romero's comments. I kind of found them a little bit offensive because I myself have a high school student at University High School. And there are many topics she is a lot more knowledgeable than both my husband and I. To say that leave the decision making to the adult contradicts what we have been teaching them to be active in their communities. Mr. Bill Sanders, for example, led the recent climate action plan, and he left those of us that were from the BOC in attendance at that meeting, he left us speechless with his knowledge and the way he handled himself, proving he is more than capable of having a place in the Bond Oversight Committee. That's pretty much all I have to say. So I'm hoping that you all will approve our recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time that anyone may have.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Carter. All right, board members, questions for either Mrs. Carter or Ms. Ekstrom? Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Luna Rose. And Owen, thank you for all of your service to the district and for your willingness to stand up. I've had a chance to work with Mr. Brill Sanders over a year on our climate action sustainability policy, and found him to be really brilliant and knowledgeable about the issues involved and the needs of our district. And I'm happy to move the item tonight.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Dr. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Ekstrom. Ms. Hernandez, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Shaw?
Here. Oh, yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
No.
Dr. Robbie?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. Item passes 4-1. Okay, thank you. And Owen, if you would like to come up and say a few words. And thank you for waiting. I know it's a school night.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much to board members and superintendent. I know I've been working with this district, like Dr. Ravi Shah said, for a while now. It's been super amazing, and I've been in this district. I've gotten to see everything firsthand. And first of all, I'd like to say, I'm extremely grateful following my appointment. I feel like the district has really shown today how much it values its students and its perspectives. I've heard all of you guys say that. I know a lot of you guys have students at Rincon, at different schools in the district. So I'm super grateful for that. Now, I just want to say I will approach this role with diligence, transparency, and as we approach all of the infrastructure and technology and facility upgrades with the Bond Oversight Committee, I will always ask, how will this directly benefit the students of our district? That will be my #1 priority, and I thank you guys all for your trust, and I look forward to serving our school district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Mrs. Carter, if she was still on. Thank you. Okay, we are on to 7.10, Governor Board Policy JFB, Open Enrollment in School Choice Revision, second reading. Mr. Aronoff.
Good evening, board members. This policy was presented a little less than 30 days ago. We had, if you recall, sort of an unusual build-up to this, but there's two main changes that we are presenting in policy JFB. If we could scroll down to sort of the first set of markups. Yes, thank you. The first set of changes. We'll get there. The first set of changes really is meant to be a reflection, and if we can go down to the next page, is meant to be a reflection of what we are actually doing in our district when it comes to capacity. It's really clarifying language. This isn't going to change what we're actually doing, but we want to make it crystal clear to those who read the policy exactly how we're evaluating capacity, that it's not just seats in a school, but that it has to do, and not even just within a grade, but within certain programs. So we want that to be crystal clear. The other set of changes, if we could scroll down a little bit further, has to do with recent legislation that permits us to provide open enrollment priority to children of armed forces members who are either in active duty or who were killed in the line of duty. And so we've sort of taken that invitation from the legislature and inserted that as one of the categories that would get priority in open enrollment. We did have a PIA completed by the administration on that issue. That's been posted for quite a while now. It was posted well before the first read, and basically found that we don't anticipate any significant impact on any of our DSEG programs. And this is, as I said, a second read. We posted this for comment a little bit less than 30 days because of our effort at getting this passed in time for the lottery to be run in January. But in the time that it's been posted, we have not received any comments on it. So it's before the board tonight for final action.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions for Mr. Aronoff? Ms. Ekstrom?
I'll move the item.
Okay. I will second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to continue hanging out.
Oh, that's right. You were our buddy for a few minutes there. Okay, 8.1, Governing Board Policy, IJH, Student Interviews, Searches, and Arrest, Revision, First Reading. Mr. Aronoff.
So it should be policy JIH.
Oh, sorry. JIH.
That's right. And this is before the board for a first read. So, so the proposal here has to do with searches of students. I have Joe Hallam's present if the board has any sort of questions around the thinking behind changing some of this language. But the language that we've included is meant to align with Fourth Amendment requirements for searches of students in schools. If we could go to that next page to see that language, I think. But this is the first read tonight, so if the board moves forward with this, it would be posted for public comment for 30 days, and then we would bring it back for a second read after that period.
Okay, board members, questions? I actually have a question. Do we know that, do other school districts, our sister districts, have similar policy?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head whether other districts have policies that are written exactly the way this is written, but most districts do have some policy related to school searches, and most of them do follow the baseline set by the Supreme Court, which is effectively what we've done here.
Okay. All right. I will move the item.
Second.
All right. Move on my, yes, Dr. Shaw.
Yeah, I want to talk about the locker searches and other kinds of things on that second paragraph. So, sorry, I'm getting my documents pulled up here. So I know if there's an item, backpack, or some other item that the student has, it needs to have a reasonable suspicion, or I might be using the terms incorrectly, so our lawyers can correct me if I'm misusing terms, before a search can happen. And while yes, lockers, desks, other things are district property, as a parent of a 7th grader, I wouldn't want the principal or teacher to start looking through what she expects to be her private areas, locker, desks. We don't really have desks with a lot of storage, but lockers, if we were to go down that route in the future, unless there was a reason for safety, security, or a code of conduct violation to do so. And so I'd like to make an amendment to this motion here. And Mr. Aronoff had emailed me some items. I'm not sure the best to do that, if I can send it to Jean to present, or what would be the best way technologically, or Maria. Oh, Jean's not here. Who's managing this?
It's Maria.
Maria. For this amendment.
You're going to email us something? Is that my?
Yes. Maria, what's your last name?
Did you email
Yeah, I
it?
emailed it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
It's just pulling up, when I was a high school student, we did have a locker at my freshman year of high school. And even if adults in the school were saying like, hey, this is district property, like, I would feel violated if people were just walking around doing random inspections or doing sweeps or something else in that locker. And so I think we need to respect the students and make sure that if we are going to inspect lockers or other properties, that there's a reason to do so.
Okay. And it's a Ms. Shaw.
Mr. Aronoff, while we wait for this to be pulled up, can you speak to the constitutionality of this policy?
Well, so the language that's in it, the standards that we've set are meant to follow what the Supreme Court has basically told us is required of us as far as school searches, right? We are governed by the Fourth Amendment because we are public schools, and so if we search students, we have requirements that apply. So the proposal here is meant to track the Fourth Amendment requirements that are placed on us.
Right on. That's what I thought you'd say. So I'm really curious to see what your amendments are, Dr. Shaw. And another question, since we're still waiting. This seems pretty standard for school districts, right? There's, I guess, like, this is not like out of the norm.
This is as a general concept, this is pretty standard. I looked at a handful of other districts. In fact, that's where I borrowed the requirement for superintendent approval. If we get to the level of search, the more invasive searches that are discussed in that first paragraph. There's nothing in Supreme Court cases that says you have to have the superintendent approved, but it's a protective measure for us. So, but yes,
Okay.
a lot of districts have things along these lines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the item is up. It is a little small, so Dr. Shaw, if you want to read that, please.
Sure. So the amendment would be to take that second paragraph change and say, nevertheless, lockers, desks, and other district-provided storage areas may be inspected by school administrators only when the administrators have reasonable suspicion to believe they contain evidence of a violation of the student code of conduct. This reasonable suspicion requirement may be waived as justified by emergency circumstances as determined after consultation with law enforcement personnel and/or the superintendent.
So this, Dr. Shaw, basically just a cushion to the policy, not really like changing anything, but just adding in that like nice.
Right, this is an
language.
amendment. So the original policy that is now, there's a motion to change the policy with the red line versions on the document that we viewed earlier. And this is an amendment to further change the document to have this paragraph in there.
Right, but it's not changing anything like substantial in the document. It's just adding in like a nicety after talking about what we're gonna do and can do.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm sorry if I could.
Yes, please, Mr.
So
Arnold.
it does, right, this language would make it so that we'd have to have reasonable suspicion to search a locker where right now we don't. We'd have to currently, for a school administrator to search a locker, it's school property, and so they don't require any particularized suspicion. In order to search a bag or something inside of a locker, they would require reasonable suspicion. So this is, you asked about what the constitutional requirements are. So this is sort of more protective than the Constitution requires, which the board is entitled to do. It's just, and I don't know, Joe, if you want to talk about any of the practicalities.
Sure. Good evening again, board members. Yeah, so I brought this to the attention of our legal counsel because there was confusion among administrators when we would go out to assist them in conducting searches due to reasonable suspicion or other reasons, but actually just reasonable suspicion. There was some confusion because our policies went beyond what the Supreme Court outlined for us. So while I can't think of any situations off the top of my head, I can tell you that the more restrictive we make it, it does seem to cause more confusion for our administrators and for our school safety personnel that assist. So that would be my only reservation for adding something more like that.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions? Ms. Shaw?
Well, gosh, thanks for clarifying that, Mr. Aronoff. I mean, we don't have lockers really in our district, at least how it used to be. But if we do implement them, like just the knowledge that they can be, I guess, accessed, I think is, might make students less apt to like bring contraband to school. You know what I mean? If they're told, hey, you can have a locker, but just know that we're going to do sweeps 3 times a year on all the lockers and you won't get notification. Like, you know, if I was a student, that would tell me like, okay, well, I'm not going to bring anything to school that is, you know, against district policy. So I don't know. I'd rather not have this phrase in there, Dr. Shaw.
Dr. Shaw.
I would think that contraband would be in the backpacks that wouldn't be searchable without reasonable suspicion, and all this does is invade privacy. So if you're bringing drugs, you're bringing things that shouldn't be there, you're going to keep it in your backpack. And this is make sure that we need to be reasonable suspicion before we go into people's lockers and invade the privacy of our kids.
Mr. Romero.
So I don't know, because I really don't have like a lot of lockers where our kids are taking them. When we did have lockers, did the students or parents of the students have to sign something saying that there could be searches done to their locker at any time? Do we know?
I don't know the answer to that, but that is certainly something that we could have parents do in the future as some sort of.
Well, I'm just wondering, so it's not invading their privacy, you know, just let them know because of the safety aspect of it, we will do these random things. So just make sure whatever you're bringing in your locker, you know, and then they give them the permission that we can search those types of things if they want a locker. Because like I said, I think this does tie our hands a little bit more in a situation like Mr. Howes had mentioned. And without having exact examples, I'm just thinking worst case scenario, having this in there could cause something negative in the future.
Dr. Trio.
I think the only real test case we have for lockers is Sabino. Sabino is really the only school that still offers them. There's only 293 students out of the 850 that have a locker. They pay a $6 fee, and my understanding is they do sign some kind of a waiver in terms of the district not being liable. Haven't heard anything about how frequently they search or if they perform random searches. Pretty much most of the administrators, I would hope all, would apply reasonable suspicion before you search anything, a locker, a purse, on your person. That's just good old-fashioned, basic, sound administrative practice. However, I think that I don't think it hurts to be very explicit about that in our policy.
Okay. Well, board members, we do have an amendment on the floor. Ms. Hernandez, can I get a roll call vote?
It hasn't been seconded, so.
Oh, I'll second it.
Oh.
Okay.
Ms. Shaw?
No.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
No.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
No. All right. So that has failed. So now we are going, any other discussion before we move the item? Ms. Shaw?
And this will go out for 30 days?
At least,
Is it 30?
correct, yes.
Okay. So I will move the item.
It's already been moved.
Oh, that's right. It has been moved, sorry. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes. All right. Item passes 5-0. Thank you so much. I do believe we are at 8.2, Governing Board Policy GCCA, Family and Medical Leave Act. First reading, Mr. Aronoff.
So on this one, Mr. Fernandez is here to help give some context, but I do just want to say in terms of the policy process that this is up for a first read, but of course the board recalls that you all passed this quite recently after it had been posted for public comment. So I do just also want to remind the board that while it could treat this as a traditional first read, post it for a new period of public comment before bringing it back for a final action, the board does also have discretion under its policy to simply pass this tonight. Given the context here, how recently you passed this policy and how recently you got public comment on it, there may be conditions that merit consideration of going that route. So I'll let Mr. Fernandez talk about why this is back before you.
All right, good evening, President Luna Rose and members of the board. The change that we are recommending for the board to consider is really to clarify language that when it was originally passed, extended paid parental leave for those employees who are benefits eligible and FMLA eligible. And we've been implementing that since the board passage all the way back to July 1st. It was brought to our attention that language where we require both benefits and FMLA eligibility really locked out employees who worked through the school year and who were benefits eligible, but because they only worked for those 9.5 months, were unable to meet FMLA requirements that you work 12 months, 1,250 hours. They were unable to meet the hourly requirements unless they took a supplemental job and worked over the summer. So there was a case that came to our benefits team that request was denied based on a pretty plain reading of the language. But on reflection, we thought that by removing, because it doesn't seem to be the intent of the board, and by removing that language and FMLA eligible, we would be able to extend paid parental leave to those 9.5 month employees who at least met the benefits eligibility requirement, which is at least 30 hours a week. So that's the first amendment to remove that and FMLA eligible requirement. And then also the second paragraph where you see some of that red line is just to clarify that paid parental leave, whether you get FMLA or some other paid or unpaid leave, would run concurrently, so employees would not be able to stack leaves and then be out for longer than the intended 12-week period. So with that, we ask for the board's consideration and hopefully approval.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Rose, and thank you, Mr. Fernandez, for your quick response on this. It was brought to our attention by one of our principals about a staff member that was in this situation where the staff member was working 60% time, part-time, eligible for benefits, but because of the summer session, didn't meet the 1,250 hours in that 1 year to get FMLA by the FMLA law passed by the federal government. But our intention, I would imagine our intention would be that our staff members that are benefits eligible, but because of the summer sessions and other breaks, wouldn't meet the FMLA requirements, would still be eligible for this really important and cutting-edge school policy on paid parental leave. And so I'm really glad that you were able to work on this and find a solution for us.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for the presentation, and thanks to everyone who brought all the issues with this policy to our attention. So with the red line changes, does that only allow for those part-time workers who are at 30 hours and the 20-hour people
Right.
can't qualify?
It cuts it off at benefits eligible, which is working at least 30 hours per week. So it does cut the line. So if you work less than that, then you would not be eligible if you're a part-time worker. You wouldn't be eligible for benefits under that we offer our employees, nor would paid parental leave apply in that case.
Okay, but can we as a board waive that and allow part-time people that are at 20 also the benefit of this policy?
We haven't evaluated that option. I think we tried to balance the fact that while we're extending this very generous leave, that we also are keeping schools staffed and finding ways to keep our coverage. So there was a line that was drawn when this policy was first contemplated. We haven't really looked at how the other options would affect our staffing at schools.
Right on.
Dr. Shaw?
Go ahead.
I'll move the item, and I'll move it for a final read tonight.
Ms. Shaw?
Gosh, well, I'd like us to get to a point where we can, like, our part-time workers are just as valuable as everybody else, although they work shorter time. Like, sometimes that's their only income, and those people have children too and get sick, and so I guess the benefits eligible, that's the wording that would prevent them, right? The benefits
Correct.
eligible. Okay, so I'd like to, well, I guess I'll move the item without the benefits eligible language.
Can I second that just for discussion to understand?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, second, please.
Thank you. So just the removal of that would, in my estimation, allow for all part-time workers to then qualify for the family and medical leave pay.
Would that be just, there would be no minimum set for that part-time, or would there be a minimum that would have to be?
I mean, like, I think part-time worker is a part-time worker. So yeah, there's, levels, but I don't know if we have any people who are like 2 hours a week. Maybe we do.
Right. We do have I think that's why we haven't looked at the staffing, but we do obviously have we have crossing guards who may work only at the beginning or end of school. We have a bunch of different employees who just work 0.2 FTE, for instance. And if depending on the wording and how we would look at how this would be implemented, it would impact employees across the board who are taking a small part-time job for just a couple hours. If they're made eligible, we just have to look at what that impact would be to extend paid parental leave in those circumstances. Because the leave that we allow is up to 12 weeks in all situations. So, it would. At this point, it's not being extended beyond the full-time workers. So we haven't looked at that, but we could bring that information back if that's the case.
Yeah, and I guess that would be my only concern would be the financial impact if we did that on a lot of those part-times also.
Yeah, well, I think that the numbers, it's not like a huge amount that we have, like, at least from some of the information that we received over the time of this policy coming in, that, it's not like a giant number. But I would be interested to see if there was a true impact to allowing part-time workers that aren't benefits eligible to receive the benefit of this policy.
Could I just?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Aronoff.
Just a consideration. You guys can obviously continue talking about it, but if you expand into part-time territory, we have workers who don't have, the same hours week to week. Then we also then would need to figure out, as a matter of our policy, how do we decide what that paid leave means for them, right? If 1 week they work 16 hours and the next week they work 8 hours and the week after that it's 30 hours. For that stretch of time when they're on paid leave, we would need some guidance on what are we paying them.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Shaw?
Thank you, President Luna Rose, and I appreciate the sentiment and supporting families. I think this is a really special benefit that we're offering our employees, and I will amend a motion to go back to benefits eligible as originally proposed by staff.
Okay. But I do believe we have amendment on the floor. That was seconded by Mr. Romero.
Right, I'm asking for an amendment.
Amendment to that.
To this motion.
Okay.
To go back to the original language of benefits eligible.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So, Ms. Shaw.
Just to comment, this is a fabulous policy and it is special, but it's not that special because this is something we should have been doing a long time ago. This is like standard, let's take care of our staff. And I think what would be really special is if we offer this to part-time employees. That would be special. So, I don't know. Are we still able to vote on my motion? Or his Trump's mine? Bummer.
So you have your motion, and I have an amendment. If my amendment fails, then we go back to your motion. If the amendment passes, then we have the motion as amended, which is be benefit eligible.
Okay, so on the floor is Dr. Shaw's amendment to Ms. Shaw's amendment. So can I get a roll call vote?
Yes.
Please.
Ms. Shaw.
No.
Ms. Ekstrom.
Yes, but I will say that I am willing to look at part-time employees if it comes back. But for now, we need to get this done because we have an employee who needs to have her paid medical leave covered. So yes.
Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Dr. Shaw.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Luna Rose.
Yes. Okay, item passes 4-1. So now we have, yes, Dr. Shaw.
I'm not sure if it's needed, but I'll also amend it to make the final read so it's approved tonight. I think it was proposed by staff as a first read. I'm not sure what your intention was. I think that wasn't mentioned, but I want to make sure this is a final read tonight.
Okay. So now we vote on that amendment, on his motion?
Needs to be seconded.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So moved by Dr. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Ekstrom. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hernandez.
Ms. Shaw.
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Dr. Ravi.
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose.
Yes. Okay, item passes 5-0. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Now we need a final vote on the final motion.
Oh, final
as
vote, final
amended.
vote. Oh, my God. I know. Okay, so, oh my God. Merry Christmas to me. Okay. So I will move the item.
It's already moved. You just need a vote.
It's already moved in the vote?
Point of order, sorry.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Now the ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Oh my God.
All right, thank you.
Don't like you. All right. We are on to 9.1, future meeting dates and agenda items. Dr. Trujillo.
Ms. Luna Rose, governing board members, this closes out our governing board meeting season for the semester, but we are going to be busy in January. We're going to be back. Our two meetings, January 14th, January 28th, we're going to be packed. We're going to be kicking things off. Obviously, the board has its reorganization meeting on January 14th. The board will assess membership of all of its governing board appointed committees and determine its assignments for governing board liaisons through the year. We'll have a study session on all of the line item costs for building renovations for the move-in to 220 West 6th. We will be back with our performance arts allocation information, this time more detailed, so the board will make some decisions on performance arts positions throughout the district. And then, of course, we will begin with our desegregation budget departmental study sessions for the board, so the board can start learning one department at a time, department's major roles and responsibilities, mission per the former unitary status plan, which will set us up for a little bit later in the semester with desegregation budget development. So a lot going on in January.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Ms. Luna Rose, I have a point of personal privilege. This is your last full meeting as our governing board president, and I wanted to thank you for your service this year. I think over this year is a really tough year, especially with election campaign keeping us very busy. But you led us with a lot of grace and a lot of compassion. You worked with at least me and I know other board members individually to make sure that our priorities throughout this year came to fruition. And even though there were some struggles on the parliamentary procedure, that's all irrelevant to your ability to really lead this governing board. So I want to thank you for your service this year. You did a great job.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. And Ms. Shaw, I saw your hand as well.
Thank you. I'd like to add to a future agenda a look at how our district is faring in regards to our regulation code IHAM-R-2, the student physical activity policy and goals.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as a point of personal privilege, it has been my honor to be president this year. Thank you for working with me on parliamentary procedure and my many phone calls with Mr. Ross. I don't know how well I picked that up. But other than that, it is a privilege and an honor to serve my community and to work with these fine people here on the dais. So with that, I would say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Thank you.